Get in pole position for cheaper van insurance. With mustard.co.uk. With top insurance providers, a 5-minute pit stop with us could get you out in front in the race to savings. See what you could save and compare your van insurance today. With mustard.co.uk. T's and C's apply. Authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.
The Clyde One Super Scoreboard Podcast with Lookers. New or used, they've got something for every taste. Visit them today. It's game day, and this is the home of Scottish football. It's Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Good afternoon and welcome to Clyde One Super Scoreboard on another busy weekend of Scottish football. Celtic and Livingston kick things off at the Tony Macaroni Arena at 12:30. That's before 3 o'clock kickoffs in the Premiership. High-flying St Mirren host Hearts. Nick Montgomery aims for Hibs' first Hibs win against St Johnstone, and it's a Tony Docherty and Derek McInnes reunion when Dundee take on Kilmarnock. I'm Andrew Mclean. Joining me in the studio today, Gordon Dalziel, Kenny Miller and Hugh Keevins.
Brendan Rodgers says that you could put 11 journalists onto Livingston's dodgy pitch and it would be a challenge to beat them. Well, Roger Hannah and I are in the process of putting a team together to put that theory to the test. What is not theoretical is Celtic's need for a win today. They have to go 7 points clear of Rangers at the top of the table and see what effect, if any, that has on Michael Beale's team tomorrow when they face Motherwell at Ibrox. I know that Motherwell and St Mirren are above Rangers in the table, but they cannot and will not win the league. Only Celtic and Rangers can do that, and that's why the pressure is on Brendan Rodgers in West Lothian. What do you say, former Livy manager Kenny Miller?
I'm just happy to be here and making my debut on the Saturday show, wedged in between two veterans of
I
the
hope you brought your
Saturday
packed
show.
lunch as well.
Well, I have done. That's in the fridge. I've got my crisps in front of me, I've got my coffee, my water, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As the boys said there, I think we're in for a cracking afternoon of football. Good start today. Livingston v Celtic. I think Celtic will fancy that very much indeed. Livy haven't beaten them in the last 4 games as well, so I'm looking forward to that. And then down the other fixtures, some cracking fixtures ahead.
With Brendan Rodgers saying that you could put 11 journalists up against Celtic at the Tony Macaroni Arena and it would be a challenge for them. Just imagine Hugh Keevins in goals against Celtic this afternoon.
No. What happens is I am chief executive and I have the minions playing the football. So Roger and I will put together a team. I already know who play.
And it's a
stick
stretch. It's a stretch that. Like, I get what he's trying, the point he's making, but it's a stretch.
You stick Hannah in goals, you're getting a clean sheet, let me tell you that.
Also, the chief executive calling all his players minions, I'm sure that will make them feel really good as well.
I don't care, they're minions. So it's a real test of Celtic today, and slightly surprised by the team selection. I have a notion that the team selection is possibly a reflection on Celtic's movement on the transfer front during the summer, but we'll let Gabriel tell you all about that.
I'm not sorry, Hugh. I'm not. Sorry, Andrew. Just when I look down there, the position that we're talking about, it's not impressed me. Nobody's claimed the number 1 spot out in the wide area for me. And they brought back a bit of experience this afternoon. Let's not write this guy off. This guy's won every single thing there to win
Multiple times.
Yeah, very experienced player, Kenny. And I still think, in my personal opinion, a lot to offer.
What does it say about those who are left out?
Maybe they can't play on the Astro. maybe the pitch is came into Brendan's thinking, and someone who's been there and done it on that pitch for the club. So it's again, we talked about it last night, about the team selection for Celtic. Like, there you go. There's 10 pretty much regular players that are playing, and it's that one position.
No, what I think
Gordon's right.
Yeah. No, what I think it says, Hugh, not hit the ground running yet.
Well, that's the case.
Yeah, we will go to Gabriel shortly to get that all-important team news from the Tony Macaroni Arena. That is, of course, the first of 4 Premiership games that we'll bring you today. Livingston against Celtic, that's a 12:30 kick-off. And then at 3 o'clock, Dundee against Kilmarnock, Hibs against St Johnstone, and St Mirren against Hearts. Lots to look forward to. And then, of course, at 5 o'clock, it's your turn to tell us what you thought of today's action on the open line. Maybe you want to preview tomorrow's games as well. Rangers, they are at home to Motherwell, and of course Aberdeen against Ross County. So lots to look forward to this weekend. As I say, we will go to the Tony Macaroni Arena shortly just to get that team news, but it is always, there is that narrative about how tough a place it is to go. Kenny, would you agree with that? Your time's going away to Livingston.
You know, I would definitely agree with that. I think it's not only the pitch. I think it's how Livingston approach the game. I mean, the one thing I would say about their team now, I look through it, the Livingston team, and I think there are actually some really good players within it. You know, go for a lad I know really well, Jason Holt in the middle of the pitch. Andrew Shinnie was a young lad at Rangers as well. He was a wonderful footballer. Joel Newbley up front's a handful for anybody, and Bruce Anderson shown over the last couple of seasons that he can score goals. So there is some good players in it, but they're going to make it harder. If you're going to take anything off Livingston at the Tony Macaroni, you're going to have to earn it.
You look at Celtic's performance during the week. I think there's been some mixed opinions. Some Celtic fans were happy with the first half performance. There was then the 2 red cards in the second half, but Celtic will be looking to bounce back, and they need to at Livingston.
Well, it's the bread and butter. They've got the advantage now, putting another 3 points on the board before Rangers take on an informed Motherwell side tomorrow at Ibrox Park. I agree with Kenny. I think when I fancy Celtic first and foremost, but I agree in the fact that if you're going to get anything there, you've got to work for it. If Celtic are off it today, they could get punished, but I don't think that'll be the case. I like the look of their team, middle at front. I think their goals there. We always talk about the pitch, but if you get the ball down and play and move people about, they've got the quality to punish it.
And it's one of these weekends where Celtic play before everyone else. So they play before Rangers tomorrow. They'll be looking to extend that gap on Rangers. They play before St Mirren as well, who have been in very good form, and Motherwell. So they'll be looking to extend the gap on those teams as well.
The pressure on the Celtic manager and the Rangers manager is great. It's an unforgiving environment that they are in. Look at what followed Michael Beale after Celtic won at Ibrox, and now after losing to Feyenoord midweek in the Champions League, Celtic can't have cliches about European hangovers or anything of that sort. Their obligation is to win, to go 7 points ahead of Rangers. And as I say, I'm not being disrespectful to St Mirren or Motherwell. They cannot win the league. Only Celtic and Rangers can do that. So the obligation is to go 7 in front of Rangers and see if it spooks Rangers at all.
How big a test is it, Kenny, when the games are so different in a game week, going away to Feyenoord, playing against a side who, were really taking the game to Celtic, an away game, quite the atmosphere there as well, to Livingston, where there's a lot of different factors, whether it's the pitch, the different style of play. What will that test for the Celtic team today?
What it'll test is how sharp, how quick, how clean they can be in that final third. Because there's one thing for sure, when you look over both sides of the Old Firm, games that they kind of struggling is when the team pack up the middle of the pitch. They play maybe back four or 4-5-1, 5-4-1, doesn't matter which way they do it. They shut things off through the middle, they force you wide, and they're quite happy to give up the crosses. So that's what Celtic will be facing today. And on this pitch, again, I'm not quite sure what the weather like is at Livingston today, but if it's dry and that pitch is not, and that ball's not moving quickly over that pitch, Celtic will find it tough to move Livingston about. Like Gordon says, that's what you want to move them, you want to switch the play, you want to open their defence up. Well, if that pitch is dry, it does make it really tough.
Big test of Lagerbielke today, I would suggest. You've mentioned Joel Newbley, wouldn't be the first Celtic centre half to have struggled against him, and Lagerbielke has yet to give a convincing account of himself, whether it's domestic football or European football. So I don't know how much experience he has of synthetic surfaces, but all in all, it's a big test of Gustav Lagerbielke.
Under 20 minutes to go until kick-off. We'll give you that all-important team news next.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard with Call Robert Accident Repair. They'll collect, repair and deliver your vehicle, providing a hassle-free service.
And now a word from our podcast sponsor, Lookers Motor Group. They've got Jaguar, Land Rover and Volvo showrooms across Glasgow and the West, so you can find the new or used approved car that's right for you. The Land Rover showrooms can be found in Motherwell, Darnley and the north of Glasgow, with their Jaguar and Volvo showroom found in Hillington. And right now at lookers.co.uk you can browse and shop 24/7, value your part exchange, order and take delivery from the comfort of your own home. Every approved used Jaguar, Land Rover or Volvo comes with a minimum of 12 months warranty, roadside assistance, MOT test warranty, an independent mileage and service history check, software updates and lots more. Check out lookers.co.uk to get your new or used approved Land Rover, Jaguar or Volvo today. Now back to the podcast.
Action as it happens, and your reaction from 5 on the open line. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Closing in on kick-off between Livingston and Celtic in the Scottish Premiership today. It is at 12:30, the first of course, 6 Premiership games across this weekend. Lots to look forward to and lots to bring you. I think we're having a few technical difficulties maybe at the Tony Macaroni Arena, but I will bring you that team news. Let's start with Celtic, shall we? Because that's the team that's in front of me here. Joe Hart starting in goal. The back four: Alistair Johnson, Gustav Lagerbielke, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor. The midfield three: Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate and Matt O'Reilly. And it will be Maida and James Forrest either side of Kyogo. The substitutes: Bain, Palma, Yang, Turnbull, Holm, O, Tomoki Iwata, Bernardo and Ralston. What sticks out for you there? Is it the inclusion of James Forrest?
Yeah, I mean, 10 of those players are there as expected. The back four is as strong as it gets for Celtic while they deal with injury problems to Carter Vickers and Nabrowski and Stephen Welsh. The midfield is the 3 best players that Celtic have: McGregor, O'Reilly, Hatate. Up front, you would not be without Kyogo or Daizen Maeda. But James Forrest, now, as Kenny said earlier on, he's won everything and several times over, and there is no negative reflection on James Forrest. But what does it say about the summertime spending? Yang, not considered. Louis Palma, not considered. They're on the bench.
You do wonder though, at Livingston there are 2 wingers that haven't had a lot of game time. Louis Palma came in pretty late. Yang hasn't had a whole lot of game time. At a place like Livingston, where it is a bit more unique, the conditions are tougher. James Forrest is the type of player that has been there and done it at Livingston. Is it maybe less of a gamble to put him in than a Lewis Palma or a Yang?
I'd be very interested to hear Brendan Rodgers after the match on why he arrived at that decision. And as I say, no reflection on James Forrest, who has been outstanding for Celtic over a long number of years. It just surprises me that he's in there ahead of summertime buys.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think we can go to the Tony Macaroni Arena. Let's hear from Gabriel, get a recap of the teams and a bit of build-up from there.
Thanks, Andrew, and good afternoon from Livingston. Yes, Brendan Rodgers has named his team here in West Lothian, and it's only one change from Tuesday's 2-0 loss to Feyenoord in the Champions League. Louis Palma drops to the bench. Veteran James Forrest comes in to start on the right-hand side. Let's go through that team then. It's Joe Hart in goal, Alistair Johnson, Gustav Lagerbielke, Liam Scales and Greg Taylor at the back four. Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate and Matt O'Reilly stay in midfield. James Forrest comes in on the right wing. Kyogo leads the line and Daizen Maeda will be off the left. The substitutes are Bain, Yang, Turnbull, Holm, O, Bernardo, Tomoki, Palmer and Ralston. David Martindale has named an attacking side for Livingston. Looks like it might be a 4-4-2 formation. I'll just go through the team for you now. Shamal George in goal. A back four of Jamie Brandon, James Penrice, Ayo Obele and Louis DeLucas. Scott Pittman, Andrew Shinnie, Jason Holt and Mo Sangare in midfield. And Bruce Anderson and Joel Nubley up top. The substitutes: Hamilton, the 2 Kellys, Mackay, Guthrie, Bradley, Parks, Lloyd and Laval. Kick-off just about 20 minutes away here. Atmosphere really building. I've got to say though, Andrew, it's officially the first day of the big jacket. Winter already feels...
No, I think Gabriel's cut out there. Not quite sure what happened, but he's saying it's freezing there. That'll add to the elements for the 2 teams.
Yeah, but we weren't really interested in the weather report anyway. We're more interested in the
Ask
team.
him what it's like tomorrow. I'm playing golf.
Yeah, it's listen, obviously it's when you look at that Celtic team, it's interesting. I mean, Hugh's already touched on it. There is only that one new shine in the team. It's Lagerbielke, and it's a player that has struggled. So again, going on Nubley, for me, if I'm that striker and I'm Joel Nubley or Bruce Anderson, if it is a 4-4-2, you'll be up against him trying to work off him.
Well,
because he's really toiled.
I'm looking at that, Kenny, as Dave Martindale looked at it and thought, our best bet, 2 strikers. Anderson can get you goals. He's shown that. Nubley is a handful. I think if it's a 4-4-2, it'll be direct football to them, and they'll go and test the Celtic back four this afternoon.
It has been a test for Celtic centre-backs previously, hasn't it? Is the sort of litmus test of going to Livingston, whether it's been Lyndon Dykes in the past. It was Christopher Julian that didn't quite cope too well on one occasion. Is this maybe going to be the test for Liam Scales and Gustav Lagerbielke coming up against Joel Nouble? And the thing is, Joel Nouble quite often does play out wide for Livingston, so if it is more conventional from Livingston, maybe they won't have to deal with him as much if he is shifted over to that left side. But Bruce Anderson is also a player that will look to cause them problems.
I would have fewer concerns for Liam Scales than I would have for Lagerbielke. He's been thoroughly unconvincing in every game that he's played for Celtic, and that he will get the treatment that Lyndon Dykes gave to Christopher Julian. Stephen Welsh struggled there in Ange Postecoglou's first ever match at Livy. Livy won 1-0. Shinnie scored the goal and Stephen Welsh was at fault. So it's been a testing ground for centre backs, and that will be particularly the case with Lagerbielke, who, whether it's a plastic pitch or a conventional pitch, has struggled.
Yeah, it's not just exclusive to Celtic as well. I remember at the start of last season, John Souttar in his first league appearance for Rangers, I think he was taken off at half time, wasn't he? He struggled up against Joel Nouble. So is that something you think David Martindale will try and exploit, get Joel Nouble in and around those two Celtic central defenders?
Listen, David Martindale's had a blueprint for actually having a reasonable amount of success against both sides of the Old Firm, particularly at home. Maybe not a lot of wins, but he's definitely held on for 0-0s, 1-1s. He's produced a lot of points against the Old Firm. So it's Joel Nouble seems to be one of these guys that does rise to the occasion as well when he's playing against either. So it'll be interesting to see where he does line up, because listen to Gabs, he's right. He can play off the left, but I look at it and think, particularly with Pittman as well, Pittman's a midfielder. It does look like there is 4 midfielders in there. I mean, Pitts is a guy who can play further up as well, because he's quite flexible in what he can play. But if I'm looking at it now and thinking, it would be really interesting to see Nouble and Anderson up against that Celtic backline. It's all traditional, is it? One big, one small. You're thinking Bruce Anderson is lively, could work off Joel Nouble. And that Celtic pairing, I mean, Scales has been excellent. Scales knows Livingston, he knows the league, he was there at Aberdeen last year, he knows exactly what he'll be facing. But it's a really inexperienced pairing of the two of them, so it's something that maybe Livingston can exploit today.
Hugh, you were saying that you were wanting to hear from Brendan Rodgers after the game and why he'd chosen James Forrest. I've just seen a quote there from him talking to Sky Sports before the game. He says, Jamesy has been brilliant. I see his quality every day. He can produce that magic in the final third.
But doesn't play in the Champions League, but then comes back for the domestic league. So,
I suppose that's the beauty of having a bigger squad, that you can, it's horses for courses, isn't it? He feels that James Forrest is more suited to this game for whatever reason. Or
did you have a look at Louis Palmer and thought, I'll leave him on the bench?
I think I know what you're saying, Hugh, and I think everybody would agree, but I think we're being sort of disrespectful to James Forrest. Everybody talks about, oh well, he's at a certain age, he's been at Celtic for so long. I still think, me personally, Forrest is probably right now Abada would be number one. I've had a look at Palmer, I've had a look at Yang. I would play Forrest all day long, and I think that's what's happened with Brendan Rodgers. Hugh's right. Why is he not in the Champions League game? But he's been working in training. He's had a look at these two guys and thought, hold on a minute, I've got a guy who knows this league inside out, knows how to win, knows how to play, knows how to create and score. And that's the reason he's in. He's in there in merit, I think, today.
Well, let's hear a bit from both managers ahead of this one, starting with David Martindale.
Definitely going into this game with a bit of belief. We've got to try and use a wee bit of the overhang from Celtic's European adventures. So if you probably look at the schedule in terms of how many games Celtic's played and how many games Livingston played, it's probably roughly the same. You're probably sitting at a wee bit more, to be honest. But then you take in the international players who have had that international travel. Look at Callum McGregor. I don't think Callum McGregor gets a weekend off. Just taking into account the travel factor, they're away playing Champions League football. That took a lot out of them, took a lot out of the game, then they've got to travel back. So you've got to try and look for every small marginal gain you can.
At a huge club like Celtic, you can't dwell on a win or a loss. Our focus is only directed in one way, and that's playing and working with that intensity in an efficient manner. Where can we be better? Where can we improve? But we play so many games in the season, you can't dwell. I like David. I come across him when I was up here the last time, and his teams are always competitive, make it very difficult for you. So you know that you have to earn the right to get the 3 points. So it'll be no different this weekend. We're anticipating a tough game. It's a surface that's always a challenge, but we have to cast that aside.
Kick-off at the Tony Macaroni Arena coming up next.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard with Call Robert Accident Repair. Fault and non-fault insurance specialist. Robert will even pay your excess. The team with the biggest support in Glasgow and the West. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
The players are making their way out the tunnel at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Livingston against Celtic, due to kick off in about a minute or so. Celtic actually have won in their last 2 visits there, 3-0 and 3-1. And they obviously did well last season as well against Kilmarnock under Ange Postecoglou. Do you have to add some Ange Postecoglou tax to these type of results because he had the team playing so well, and it didn't really seem to matter what surface they were playing on? Or do you feel that momentum could carry on?
I go back to Ange Postecoglou's first game at Livingston. He lost it. It simply depends on which version of Celtic turn up today. Celtic,
but they were a very different side last season than they were right at the start of Ange Postecoglou's spell, though, weren't they?
But it shows it can happen. It's about what Celtic do today. They have to be in Lager Bielka and scales. They have to be dominant. They can't be bullied by Nuble. Up front, Kyogo, as ever, bears the burden. They have to hope his shoulder doesn't pop out at any stage. But Celtic have the quality, and that's why I think they will win 2-1.
2-1, okay. I was going to go for predictions after kick-off, but you know what, we may as well do them now. 2-1, says Hugh. Kenny?
I've got 2-0 Celtic.
2-0 Celtic. Gordon, clean sweep, is it?
As for me, I'm going to go 3-1. I think they'll be comfortable.
There we go. We'll get the predictions for the 3 o'clock kickoffs in the build up to those. The players are just Celtic just about to get in their huddle, aren't they, ahead of this one. And I mean, Livingston have only kept 2 clean sheets in their last 21 top flight games, which is not a great record. That will give Celtic confidence that they can go and score.
It's not a great record, particularly when you think of Livingston, you think they're hard to beat, they're going to make it really, really difficult, which they will, by the way. But obviously they've not got that clean sheet record, so they are clearly giving up chances, and teams are able to score against them quite regularly. So they're playing against, they're the champions, they're the best team in the country, they're sitting top of the league. It's going to be a big, big test for them.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard. Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy. Planning your holiday? Get essential health advice and medication before you travel.
Yes, underway at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Both teams in their traditional home kits, and we've had the predictions from the guys. You don't think it's going to be straightforward, Hugh, but a Celtic victory?
Well, I'm only basing it on what we've seen of Celtic this season. Nothing is straightforward with them. They had a poor first half against Dundee last Saturday, came alive in the second half after they got off the mark with a penalty. But an early dominant header from Liam Scales to show that he's enjoying himself and he means business, and James Forrest trying to get Celtic onto the front foot. But they have to make a quick start, Andrew. The problems that tend to arise when they take a long time to get into the game.
Brendan Rodgers said in the build-up to this one, Gordon, he talked about how different the 2 artificial surfaces are between Livingston and Kilmarnock, but people will still view this as a big test in relation to the Kilmarnock game, because Celtic went there, they lost, they got knocked out of the cup, and if Celtic then can't go to Livingston and win, then people will start to raise some questions, won't they?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the modern day football they don't like the surface, Andrew, and rightly so. Football at our level, top level, with the crowds and people that go along there for entertainment, spend their money, it should be grass pitches for me, especially at the top level. I can understand about the cost and how it saves you in the training facilities and everything, and it works in, because Livingston don't run the big budget, but these are the kind of pitches, and Kenny quite rightly, people don't understand, if it's dry, the pitch is dry, or the water, it's two completely different pitches. And teams, and especially Celtic, who will train in quality every single day, have to get used to this, and it sometimes is very difficult.
I think that if managers cannot play certain players on the surface because it would be a potential danger to them in the physical sense, then they should be outlawed.
Who are you talking about specifically? I mean, do you really feel that it's that big a problem?
Well, managers of all clubs have said in the past, oh well, I'll maybe not play him on the synthetic surface. I just think, to amplify Gordon Dalziel's point, that this is our major league, this is our flagship competition, and we're playing it on two bob pitches, and that shouldn't be the case.
We have had this debate quite a lot of the time. We'll focus on the game at the moment. It is looking, Kenny, we talked about how Livingston were going to line up. Does it look like that diamond in midfield with Newbley and Anderson up top?
It definitely does look that way. I mean, I think what Davies told Pittman is any time off the ball you're in around Callum McGregor. I mean, Pitt's is a dog, he'll work ever so hard, he can run all day, so he will not be giving Callum McGregor any 1 minute's piece to actually get on and dictate the tempo of this game, which Callum normally does. So you can even see he's just in and around them all the time. You've got a flat three of Shinnie, Holt and Singari that are kind of protecting that back four, and Pittman is just going to be all over McGregor today. When
it comes to Livingston's game plan, Gordon, how important is it to just stay in the game early?
Oh, of course it's important, especially when you come up against a team like Celtic. It gives you hope, gives you encouragement. The longer you can keep in that game, the more chance that you've got is nicking something. Most important thing for teams that play against Celtic is, if you get the ball, don't give away cheaply, because it's very difficult to get it back. You look at the quality of the Midley Park, they've got guys there that'll pass the ball all day, but it's up to Livingston to get that structure into their play, where if they do get an opportunity, try and be brave on the ball and try and keep it.
Yeah, Rio Hatate just tried to thread a ball through to Dyson Maida there, but it's gone out for a goal kick. He had a shot a few moments earlier that was never troubling the goalkeeper either.
No, it was well wide. But Celtic do look as if they mean business early on. However, Newbley, the ever-present danger as Livy get into the Celtic half.
It shows you the tactics right away, Hugh. They got a goal kick at Livingston, and George immediately gets the big guys to the left hand side of the pitch, fires it up there. They try and win second balls, they end up getting a throw in. That's going to be their tactic probably today.
It will be their tactic. It will be their tactic all day long. They'll be looking to get a ball up to Newbley, like he says. What he seems to be working off this side of Lagerbielke as well, that he clearly will fancy his chances. So, but I'll tell you, see, when they get the ball in these types of situations, though, Livingston can play. They've already had a couple of passes to play with. They're playing out, and they find Jamie Brandon at the right in the right back area. So they've got good players in there. And you're right, once you get the ball gone, you need to try and take the sting out of it. And I think through Shinnie, through Holt in particular, they've got two guys that are very, very comfortable on the ball that can do that.
There will be a few eyes on Gustav Lagerbielke just naturally with his start to his Celtic career, getting sent off during the week. He just had one there where he tried to, as Celtic have a big chance here, Kyogo on the turn, that one saved. I think the flag has
offside.
Gone up, though it did look offside in initial inspection. Of course they put the flag up a bit later once that attacking phase of play had finished, but it was a pass from Greg Taylor into Kyogo just around the penalty spot, just popped up and on the turn straight at Shamal George.
Yeah, if I was David Martindale, a bit concerned. I know he's offside, but the space that he's got in the box, you keep giving him that space this afternoon and you're going to get punished. Of that there's no doubt. You go back to the centre half, Lagerbielke, has he had a great start to his Celtic career? Not for me. He's not impressed me. Plenty of time still to come. I thought, and only my opinion, I thought he was a bit unlucky the other night there with the second yellow. Okay, the argument is he doesn't need to get his body, but a centre half will always do that. They do it everywhere else in the pitch, and unfortunately for the boy, up until then I think he'd done alright, but it's a big task for him today. But like Scales, come into the game against Rangers at Ibrox, question marks written all over him, produced, and he's starting now to look a really comfortable left centre back for Celtic.
It's only 6.5 minutes into this game. Kyogo looks as if he's playing on the last man. Has that maybe been more of a theme of the last couple of games for Celtic, where Kyogo had been dropping a bit deeper in the early stages of Brendan Rodgers' return, and now he seems to be playing a bit more on the shoulder again, Kenny?
Yeah, listen, we discussed that last night. That's where he is most effective, in my opinion. His movement, he's a constant threat to the centre backs. They can't switch off for 1 second when Kyogo plays that way, because he's always looking to go. But that's why he gets caught offside 10 times a game, because he's always on that shoulder, and he never gets disheartened for making the runs, even when he doesn't get it, or whether he's offside. He's always willing to make those runs and stretch the game and be that threat. So it's no surprise to see that kind of little development in Celtic's attacking play, because for me, that's what he's best at.
Hatate's decision making was questioned in Rotterdam midweek in the Champions League, and once or twice today he's made the wrong call as well. He's such a talent, but he hasn't really started this season as well as we know he can play.
I think he's finding his feet again, Hugh. He's not had a lot of football since the start of the season.
He had an injury at the start of the campaign as well, which won't help.
Exactly. Listen, we're not down his talent for 1 minute. He's a fantastic footballer. He's just finding his feet. It'll take him time, and when it does eventually click, you've got a quality player.
Who was the caller on last night's show, Hugh, that was having heart palpitations at Celtic passing the ball across their own box? Because that was, Joe Hart receiving the ball there, maybe less than a yard from his own goal line, but Celtic, passing it well, getting round the Levy press.
Caller's name was Edward. He said he had to turn the television off. He couldn't watch it anymore.
I think he might have already turned off just given that passage of play, but Celtic dealt with it well.
And then we had another caller, Kenny, who you remember, who said he was hiding behind these curtains.
Absolutely
watching Celtic. So they're causing their supporters all sorts of medical problems.
The one thing at the moment, I'm watching this, and again, there's been like the way Celtic are passing about, it does look like the ball's moving across the surface pretty well at the moment, so it might be a little bit slick. Even on that through pass there from Livingston, it did kind of bounce relatively normal and went out the pitch for a goal kick to Celtic. So at this moment, it must have a little bit of rain or moisture on it that's moving across the pitch pretty well.
Yeah, just a hand up of apology there from Ayo Obolai, who a bit of a mix up with Shamal George. The ball was bouncing towards the edge of the Livingston box. Shamal George looked as if he was favourite to come and gather it, but Obolai decided to head it away. Livingston didn't end up facing any danger, but those are the types of things you can't be doing against Celtic.
But 10 minutes in and Livy have a chance.
Yeah, there is a chance, and it's a good low save from Joe Hart. It was initially had a clearance off the line as well. I think a real big chance for Livingston there, a couple in the space of a matter of seconds. Callum McGregor clearing it off the line right at the end. I think Bruce Anderson initially, did he get the better of Liam Scales in the box? The shot was low to Joe Hart's left. He makes the save. There's a bit of a scramble in there. The ball's then prodded towards goal, and Callum McGregor has taken up the right position.
A real let off for Celtic. You can tell now it's going to be a really long afternoon for them. The Livy are playing really well and ought to be a goal up.
Are they playing really well, or have they just had one chance?
It was a tactic we spoke about. It was a long ball down the left hand side. Nobly flicks it on. Scales gets caught under the ball. Anderson, you would expect, I'll tell you what, it's a good effort. A good save from Joe Hart, but I'd expect Joe Hart to save it because it was a very difficult angle. But just a little warning sign. They seem to fancy this long ball onto Nobly, against Johnston, the right back position. They've got to look at the second ball, Celtic.
How much confidence will that give Livingston? Because they've won a few individual battles there. Joel Newbley has won the header. Bruce Anderson has got the better of Liam Scales. And then even when the ball rebounds back, Greg Taylor's trying to shield the ball, and Livingston still managed to get a shot away. Is that the type of thing that can lift a side?
I'll give them hope, that's for sure.
Although a chance here, Kyogo with the ball across the box. Dyson Maeda was running into the 6-yard box, but Shamal George got a strong hand on it to direct it away.
Yeah, again, going back to Livingston, it's probably something, we talked about it pre-game, so there's no doubt Davy Martindale have looked at it in his match prep. Getting Joel Newbley, getting the ball up to him, using his physical presence, and getting Bruce Anderson working off him, and it worked to perfection there.
What I'd be asking Kenny, just on the caption there, when the ball goes to Newbley in the right, Johnston's right back position, it Scales, it's over, that's the left centre back. He's out of position for me. Why is he over there? Where's Lagerbielke?
Unless was it Lagerbielke that was challenging Newbley? So then Scales shifts over, and I think that was the that was essentially the plan. That
I thought
he's
it was
over-covering
Alistair
because
Johnston it went for a head, but it's obviously a tactic that David Martindale's worked on, because every time George gets the ball, that's the position the ball's going into.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that David Martindale has done for years, really, is especially playing against Celtic and Rangers, is looking for those long balls, quite particularly in wide areas. I used to remember from goal kicks that it was Declan Gallagher that he would push up onto the left back for Celtic or Rangers, and all the goal kicks would just be targeted towards him to go and win those headers and try and win a second ball.
A penalty
to Celtic. It's Rio Hatate that goes down in the box. I think the challenge was Louis De Lucas, who's shown the yellow card, and he doesn't look as if he's complaining too much at all. Celtic have a penalty.
Yeah, no protest there from the Livy player. It's a clear penalty all day long. So what an opportunity for Celtic to get their noses in front and to make up for their slow start.
No, it'd worry me, Andrew, just quickly. That build-up play there, Callum McGregor got the ball in the middle of the park, and there was not a Livingston player within 10-15 yards of him. You do that, they've just got to pick you off, and that's exactly what happened. McGregor into Taylor, into Hatate, penalty kick.
Well, it will be Rio Hatate that's going to take it. 1-on-1 with Shamal George, 12 yards out. He won the penalty. Can he score? Just bearing down on the ball at the moment. Celtic fans, of course, behind that goal.
It's a big moment in the match. Big psychological boost if Hatate scores.
Runs up, right footed. Rio Hatate. It almost looked as if it was saved. However,
Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy.
the ball squirms under Shamal George, and Celtic take the lead against Livingston.
Well, I need to see that again to find out how that get past the goalkeeper.
That was shocking, penalty. Yeah. I'll tell you what, he's got away with one there. I don't know how the goalkeeper's actually put that in the back of the net.
Yeah,
I tell you, if you're Hatate, you're just delighted to see that ball in the net.
I mean, he's gone to Shamal George's left side, but it's not going anywhere near the corner. It's not particularly powerful either, Kenny.
It's just as well it never went anywhere near the corner, because George saved it. He's actually dived over the ball, and then he has to bring his hand back the way to try and get
his
it.
elbow,
and
doesn't it? And
directs
into the net.
Puts it into the goal. So listen, any penalty hits the back of the net is a good one because it's a goal. But I'm thinking when Shamal George looks back on that, he'll be a little bit disappointed he's not saved it.
And Rio Hatate will be a little bit relieved at the same time, because it was a terrible penalty.
But Kenny's right. Any penalty goes in. It's a good penalty kick.
Yeah. Well, how many times you say it's a good penalty, it's a brilliant save, but it doesn't. It's not any consolation if you miss. This in the back of the net. It's 1-0 and Rio Hatate's name's on the score sheet.
Just going back to the penalty incident, how frustrated. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll stay with the action, because Daisen Maeda, he's got to the byline, he's looking to pick out someone, but it goes into the side netting. It will be a corner to Celtic. But as I say, just going back to the penalty incident, David Martindale will be frustrated because it's just poor decision making from Louis De Lucas, isn't it? He just puts his foot into a challenge where he was never going to win the ball.
He's on the wrong side, I mean, Hatate's pushed up alongside his teammate Kyogo in the front line, and the two of them are up against the two centre backs, and he's just wrong side, and Hatate just uses his body well. He's letting the ball run over to get a shot, and he just puts a foot in there. It's a lazy defending from De Lucas.
How much does this change the game, Celtic scoring at this stage of it, Gordon?
Oh yeah, of course it does. It makes it very difficult for Livingston. They'll stick to their game plan. You talk about decision making for Hatate's penalty. I'd be more concerned about the space the midfield players got. McGregor, when you see it back at half time, the space that McGregor gets is incredible for me, and Taylor was the same. You do that against Celtic with the players that they've got and the passing ability, they're going to cut you open. That's exactly what happened. But look, I don't think David Martindale will change anything. He'll stick to that game plan, but it's important they do not give away another goal, because if they do, I just feel that Celtic will go and have a comfortable afternoon.
Overall, it's a decent match. It's got a lot to like about it, and Livy not devastated, but as Gordon said, a second goal for Celtic, and it's an uphill struggle. They can't win.
Yeah, well, there's Joel Newbley again. Just, he's got Liam Scales at his back, takes the ball in well at the halfway line, and Livingston will try and build, but he really is key, isn't he, to what Livingston are trying to do in terms of. There's a lot of expectation on him to be able to hold the ball up and bring others into play.
Kenny may disagree with us, but if I'm looking at the two centre forwards, I would play them right up against the two centre backs if you're going to play that style of football, because you've got a better opportunity. As we touched on, the big one, the wee one. The big one goes and flicks things on, holds up. The wee one's busy round about, and Bruce Anderson's good at that. There's no doubt about that. I would be, if I was Brendan Rodgers, I'm more happy with Newbley being out on the left hand side. Yeah, he'll get his flick-ons, but you've got players that will go and cover that. I think through the middle, holding the ball up, getting the middle of the park up, getting your back men up, gives you a better opportunity.
Celtic going down the left quite a lot. There was just a graphic on the screen that popped up there saying that Greg Taylor had 29 touches. I think it's about 31 now. He's touched the ball a couple of times since. The next most for a Celtic player was 19. He'll be a player that we'll be hoping for a good performance today, because there's been a big narrative about, you know, Celtic's change in style of play and how they utilise their fullbacks, and that it's maybe not favoured Greg Taylor this season, but he's certainly involved a lot in this game, Kenny.
Well, and I'll tell you, in the three instances, and that one he's just got on the ball there as well, he is coming more inside. You know, in the pass that he put into Kyogo, he was from an inside position. He was also on an inside when he slid to Tati. So Greg Taylor has got that pass in him. When he finds himself 30-35 yards for goal and he's a little bit inside and not out wide on the touchline, what he's got when he comes in there, he's got Maeda who's wide, so that's his option wide, but he's got that threaded pass, as we've seen already twice in this first half. Once almost led to a goal for Kyogo, the other led to the penalty. So he's had a really positive start to the game, Greg.
18 minutes gone at the Tony Macaroni Arena. It's that Rayo Hatate penalty that is the difference between the two sides. As Joel Newbley, well, what about the strength that he's shown there? Then just trying to get in the box. Gustav Lagerbielke doing his job well that time though, taking the ball off of Newbley, but just showing the power that he's got there.
Yeah, well, he's a tremendous asset. Davy Martindale's always trying to sell him. He's always, every transfer window he says, well, I'm amazed nobody came in for him, but he is a tremendous asset for Livingston, and he would be for any team, because the sheer physical strength, and he just unsettles everyone. A few of the Celtic players seem to be having difficulty
sliding, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen Maeda, especially early on, just slid right off the pitch. Whether they've put a bit of water on it and the surface is a bit slidey, I don't know, Hugh, but they are finding it difficult
to keep their feet.
Yeah.
You would be surprised if Livingston had intentionally watered the pitch, though.
Why?
Kenny, you think? Well, they'll want to slow the game down, surely, and not watering it.
I would cut the AstroTurf to my thing. Listen, every advantage possible. It'll be interesting to hear what David Martindale does with the pitch when they play Celtic and Rangers.
I think it's a fair bet to say that they don't water it. They would want it as dry as possible, surely, to try and slow the game down.
Yeah.
I think at this stage, man, it does look like, there's no doubt, there's no way they'll have watered that pitch. There's no way that Livingston would have watered it. It does look like that there's obviously been rain in Livingston, and there is a bit of rain on there, and it skips up, and that's the benefit. Well, the benefits for Rangers and Celtic going to Kilmarnock and Livingston's at this time of year, in particular in this country, that it's probably a 90% chance it is going to rain. So, but it looks like it's moving okay at the moment. I think when the ball's travelling across the pitch, I mean, Livingston are trying to play the way they're playing, and with the kind of diamond in these four midfielders, they can get switched a lot, and I think we have seen that, particularly going from right to left across to Greg Taylor. There is openings coming down that side.
I would mix that tactic up a little bit. I'm not telling David Martindale what to do, but
yes, you are.
Yeah, the ball's coming to Newbley. Yeah, he's winning the flick-ons, but now the two centre backs are just dropping off the game and picking the ball up.
Well, you can see how Celtic are dealing with it, because essentially Lagerbielke is pushing out and he's challenging Newbley for the ball, and Taylor and Johnson essentially push in. Scales goes more central. They move to almost a back three, and it allows Lagerbielke to go out and challenge Newbley for the ball. So even if he has that flick on, there then are three Celtic defenders there to deal with the flick on.
I've got to say, Celtic, and people keep saying about this difficult venue, they look very comfortable. They're knocking the ball about well. They've got that first goal. For me, they say it's difficult to go to Livingston because they're in your face. They make it very difficult for you.
A couple of heavy challenges in a row there, and there is going to be a card out, a yellow card. I think Alistair Johnson was the one that went in a bit too heavily. Callum McGregor not happy because he feels that there was a challenge moments before that maybe should have been dished out the same treatment by John Beaton.
Well, it's on Matt O'Reilly. I thought it was a foul at the time. Alistair Johnson, he likes a tackle, but that one was too much for John Beaton, so it's a yellow card, and you need to be careful now, Alistair Johnson, because his game's all about being aggressive.
Might just be me, but was the Livingston foul before maybe worse than Alistair Johnson's challenge?
I thought they were almost identical to tackles, to be honest with you, and I don't think there was too much contact for either of the challenges, by the way. Obviously it probably was 2 free kicks, but unfortunate for Celtic, they've came out worse off, and Alistair Johnson now is going to have to walk very, very carefully, particularly when Newbley's pulling out on that side and you have James Penrice trying to get up and support. I mean, well, again, it's something now you can look at for Livingston. That's maybe their most dangerous side of the pitch, is down the left. Can you get at him? Can you maybe force someone to make fouls, and you can maybe gain an advantage that way?
2 good headers there from Lagerbielke. Went up against Newbley and just decided that he was going to win it, and he'll take a bit of confidence from that, because everyone talks about Newbley being a handful, but so far they've dealt with him very, very well indeed.
I don't know if you saw this before the game on Twitter. There was a Celtic fan that had asked for some help, Hugh, because her brother's tickets had got wet. I don't know whether it was the rain or something else. And what would you do in that situation? You would maybe put them on the radiator, dry them out.
Hair dryer.
That's a sensible option. You would say. Her dad decided to grill the tickets, and she now has photo evidence of what are burnt tickets that are completely unusable, by the way, because you can't honestly no idea. So I have no idea whether these people managed to make it to the game or not, but for some reason the logic went to, you know what, grilling the tickets will dry them out. It certainly dried them out. It's
25 minutes. The air fryer.
All the information on the front is completely burnt off the ticket. It's a unique way of trying to deal with the situation here.
Well, you see, with callers, Celtic fans turning off the television, their nerves can't handle it. Another man's hiding behind his curtains.
Are you trying to say he's intentionally grilled the tickets so he didn't have to go to the game?
I'm just saying that the team's
big chance for Celtic here,
save.
and Dyson Maida gets the shot away, but Shamal George with a really good save from a tight angle to deny Celtic a second goal.
Yeah, well, as Gordon Dalziel pointed out, Celtic seem to be enjoying themselves today rather than it being an ordeal on a pitch that's only fit for 11 journalists. 11 football players are making a good job of it so far.
That was brilliant play. That was brilliant play in link. I think it was James Forrester that came all the way inside. There was good play up into it, and it was quick one-touch play run about, and that's how you open up teams. And that's where Celtic have been very, very good over the last few years. How clean they are and how quick their combination play is in and around the box, and that was another example of it.
I think this has been a good opening 25 minutes for Celtic. I think they've, apart from Joe Hart having that save from Anderson, they've dominated the possession, the passing. Well, Hatate gives it away, well done. But they've looked sharp, they've knocked the ball about, their movement's good. They just look like they've got all the space in the world in the middle of the park, which you don't usually find when you go to Livingston. I just think it's the way Celtic have started this game.
Certainly if they get a second goal, you would say there's absolutely no way back for Livy, but at 1-0 there is still a pathway.
Was a driving run from Sangari there, who actually does really well to get the ball through to Pittman, but his shot is blocked, and it looks as if Sangari's actually injured himself in the process. He got by a couple of Celtic players, but just stretched to get on that final touch.
He steamed into the tackle himself, and he's came off worse because the ball was getting away from him. There's no doubt about it. So he absolutely lunged and stretched just to dip a toe into it, just to nick it onto Jamie Brandon on the right hand side here, and he's been clattered into by Liam Scale. So it looks a sore one.
And I've got to say, when that play goes further on, and I think it's Anderson's through, Lagerbielke's defending is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
This is the type of game that he needs, Gustav Lagerbielke, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yellow card for Callum McGregor for...
Yeah, not quite sure about that. I'm assuming it must be dissent of some description, because it was Liam Scales that challenged Sangari. He was maybe slightly late. I don't know whether on first viewing Callum McGregor maybe thought that Sangari had fouled Scales and the game shouldn't have gone on. Looking at the replay, it was Scales that arrived slightly later. Play was allowed to go on. Callum McGregor maybe just unhappy with that one.
But to go back to your point about Gustav Lagerbielke, he needs what we would call today a statement match. You know, he needs to show why the money was spent on him, why the faith was shown in him, and so far he hasn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, Hugh. You know, everybody's saying it's a big test for the lad, but so far up until 27 minutes. I think he's been excellent. I think his position's good. He's working his way into the game. He's went and dominated Newbley now with a couple of headers. He had a great defensive block there. So far you've got to say he's playing reasonably well.
And it's been Liam Scales out of the two that has had the plaudits so far, but I suppose just naturally Lagerbielke's been busier because he's essentially the one that's having to deal with Joel Newbley.
Yeah, and Newbley, as the boys will tell you, is a handful, especially in the air. And when you come up against someone like that, you've got to be strong as well. Your position has got to be.
Well, there's a ball over the top, and you wonder what is going to be given here because Joe Hart has come out. He's not got the ball, and the red card is out, and Joe Hart is going to be sent down the tunnel early because Joel Newbley got ahead of the ball first. Joe Hart came steaming out. There was a big collision between the two at the edge of the box, and Joe Hart is lying on the ground at the moment. He looks winded, but when he stands up, he's going to be receiving a red card.
Well, what an amazing development in the match, and it's time for Scott Bain. John Beaton had absolutely no doubt that the goalkeeper had to be sent off. What a week Celtic are having. Get the third red card in the space of a few days, and Scott Bain, I can't remember the last time he played football.
And that's the pitch, because there's been 2 or 3 longer balls in the first 27 minutes that have kind of skidded through and went out through the goalkeeper or went out for a goal. This one just sticks ever so slightly, and it allows Joe, in fact it's Sangari, allows Sangari just to get his toe and nudge it past Joe Hart. No question about the red card.
The big problem there, Kenny, when you watch it again, Scales tries to step up, and Lagerbielke is the deepest one in the right hand side, and Newbley's in between the two of them, and Sangari's in between the two of them, makes that run. Joe Hart's decided to come out. Listen, the decision's right.
We love a debate about red cards and refereeing decisions here in Scotland. I'm not sure there are many that will be able to contest that one, because Sangari does really well to stretch and just get his toe on the ball, and Joe Hart, he comes out and he sort of jumps with both legs up, doesn't he? They're now just taking a look in the TV pictures, if there's a potential offside,
no chance
there. It doesn't look as if it is on initial viewing, but you know what? We've learned the lesson before.
It's not. Lagerbielke is the deepest centre half where Scales should be round in the cover, but Scales holds his position, and all of a sudden Lagerbielke is caught, and that's why he's not offside. There's absolutely no chance that's offside.
And you know what? It's actually a really good play for Sangari, because he's one of the midfield 3 breaking beyond the strikers. It's something that doesn't happen a lot in football now. But
there is the confirmation that it was onside. It looks tight, by the way. It does look tight, but Joe Hart was just hanging around just in case the decision was overturned, because it was initially offside. But Sangari was onside, and Joe Hart is on his way down the tunnel. Celtic down to 10.
It's the double whammy. You are down to 10 men.
Is it Forrest that's come off, Hugh? Sorry, who's come off?
Don't know who's come off yet, but you're down to 10 men, and you're playing a goalkeeper who has Forrest is going off.
James Forrest making way for Scott Bain.
You're playing a goalkeeper who, journeyman goalkeeper, but he's not played for a long time.
And it's really disappointing for James Forrest. He started this game really, really well.
I'd be right on the tunnel after that.
I mean, he must be gutted. I mean, he's had to wait so long to get any kind of game time at all, and then his goalkeeper gets sent off. And again, it's always going to be an attacking player that has to be sacrificed in that situation.
Kyogo's in the defensive wall.
He's not really, is he? He's just off to the side of it. He's not one of the 4.
Do you think he'll turn his back this time?
Well, if he does, he'll just be hoping his keeper saves it this time.
I bet he's standing there going, did I not do enough the other night to get taken out of this wall?
Yeah, free kick left of centre.
Got to test the keeper here, surely.
Left footed, goes round the wall but into the side netting. James Penrice unable to hit the target.
You know, actually, I played with James Penrice at Partick, and we had a free kick in this exact situation one day, and I've never scored a free kick in my life, by the way, but I went up and I thought the wall was too far across, and I thought there was that type of opening, and he delivered that day, scored a free kick exactly like that. So no surprise to see him take it, but just never got the bend on it.
Well, Celtic looking to try and get a second despite the fact they're down to 10. Kyogo played the ball across the box. Rio Hatate is second to it at the edge of the box. Will be a Celtic throw in, but you will remember Scott Bain's last appearance for Celtic. His only appearance of last season
Easter Road.
at Easter Road, where
lost 4 goals.
He didn't show up too well, did he?
No. It's an amazing game. You know, we're praising Celtic for the way they had approached the match. They're a goal up, looking good, and all of a sudden the game's turned on its head because Celtic are down to 10 men. They've got a goalkeeper who, as you say, has been out for a long time, and in his last appearance shipped 4 goals. So no wonder Davy Martindale is looking more and more animated. He must smell blood here.
I'll tell you, I've played in a game where this happened in a Brendan Rodgers team, and you can see what he does straight away. He sacrifices a forward and nothing changes for back to middle. You know, so he'll still have his back 4, he'll still have his midfield 3. What it'll be is some really hard work for Kyogo and for Maida, who, by the way, both of them can run all day. He'll just push up alongside and they'll defend left and they'll defend right. When they've not got it, again, not a lot will change. It'll just be they're just losing that James Forrest on that right side in an attacking sense.
Yeah, because Maida looks a lot more central than he was. Does that really affect Celtic's width? There's potentially a chance for Livingston here. It's Nubly that has the ball at the byline, assessing his options. Ends up playing it out to Sangari, who caused some issues before. He cuts in, shoots, and that one goes over the bar.
Yep, it was actually Sangari again. He was the one that broke the line, and again Nubly had came off. He had dragged the defender short. Sangari goes beyond. Again, that's another ploy that's really working well for Livingston, and you've got to credit Sangari for it for having that kind of ability to run beyond the strikers. But that was a good opportunity to score for Nubly.
They've certainly targeted in that right centre back position. Every ball is getting in there. They're trying to move Johnston out and then putting balls into the space for runners, and they're getting some success from it.
Yeah, because the ball is played from James Penrice across the face of goal. It's easily gathered by Scott Bain, who has his first business to do of the game. But is that what Sangari's able to do because Joel Nubly is occupying the centre backs? It then allows Sangari a bit more space to make those runs in beyond.
Of course it does, because the centre backs are so focused on, again, it's like Gordon says, when you've got 2 strikers that are up against you, your job is to deal with the strikers. And when you've got a midfielder who's running beyond there, what it does, it gives you a big decision to make. Do you stay with the runner and drop off, which leaves the man to feet, or do you stay with your man? At this moment, I think Celtic's defenders are making the wrong choice. I think they need to be defending the space behind them, because that Sangari got in twice and it's cost their goalkeeper the game.
Well, it's a long afternoon now. Celtic, if they can get a second goal, that would be a tremendous boost for them. They're coming forward, but you can see there's ample room in this match for Livingston to get an equaliser.
How do Livingston change their game plan, or do they change their game plan with Celtic down to 10?
There's no need to change their game plan yet. I think what you'll see is, and I think we have done in this last 3 or 4 minutes, you've seen Livingston have a little bit more of the ball. So when they've got that ball, they need to work that Celtic team, because it is tough. It is tough when you're chasing, you're a man down. So they have to just stick to it, because there's no need to chase a game at this moment. There's still almost an hour to go in this game. Probably will be over an hour actually with the added time. So the longer it goes, the longer it stays at 1-0, or if they can get a goal at 1-1, the more chance they'll have towards any game. But I'll tell you, this Celtic team are still playing well. They've had a good game. They've fell foul to a kind of a decision that Joe Hart chose to come out and he's got it wrong. But they'll still be a threat to score goals. They can still go and get another goal.
What it does for Livingston is, O'Reilly, what it does is it sort of frees up their fullbacks as well. They'll be able to go up the pitch a little bit more, a little bit higher, because obviously with Celtic, with the front 3 was a problem for the back 4. They were a bit concerned about that, but now they've got the extra man. They've got to make the pitch very wide indeed and get guys wide to stretch Celtic. But Kenny's right, Celtic still look comfortable when they're on the ball.
That's because what Kenny pointed out earlier, you leave everyone where they should be, and you admittedly put a little extra work on Dyson Maida and Kyogo, but the two of them, work is what they do.
Yeah, and you know what, and that's it, because you're right. You would think that the fullbacks might be the out, But what will happen is they'll defend that way, which then frees the centre backs, you know. So Livingston have got a chance really to work them, like to work Celtic and move that ball, particularly in the back areas. And it might not be where they want it to be, because where they've been a real threat is in that kind of right side of Celtic's defence, up to Nublace and Gary running beyond, or whether it be Nublace flicking onto Anderson. That they have to work those two players, because like Hugh says, they can run all day and they will continually do it, but that is where you have more of the ball, and when you've got the ball, Celtic can't score.
Yeah, well, Celtic with a chance from a free kick. It is over on the left. It will be a delivery from the left foot of Matt O'Reilly. You would say that Livingston certainly winning the battle in height in the middle of that box.
So the ball's got to be quality, not like
and
that.
it certainly wasn't.
No, I don't know what O'Reilly was.
He strolled through the game all afternoon without really making any impression on it, Matt O'Reilly.
Yeah, I don't know what his decision was there, Hugh. Maybe something that they had rehearsed at training, but James Forrest was the one, and he's forgot he's in the dugout. That happens to the best of us.
A training ground routine for 11 players, forgetting that they've got 10.
Where is that lad? Oh, he's over there.
Yeah, well, 37 minutes on the clock at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Rio Hitati's penalty putting Celtic ahead, but Joe Hart sent off. It'll be interesting going ahead as well, because Scott Bain will have to, you would think it would be him that will remain between the sticks for Celtic's domestic games coming up, with Joe Hart suspended now.
Oh yeah, I mean, because Benji Shearer is still at the club, but you couldn't pick him out in an identity parade right now. I can't remember the last time I saw him play football.
It's quite a curious case, considering just how good he was at Dundee United.
Yeah, I mean, there was suggestions of a fallout with Ange Postecoglou, but whatever the reason, Brendan Rodgers hasn't chosen them either. So, you know, it can only be a matter of time before he leaves the club. There was a lot of talk in the summertime that Celtic did need a backup for Joe Hart. Nothing was done, and now they're left with Scott Bain, who got a contract extension at the club. But you would have to say, for me, he's not a top drawer goalkeeper.
And especially when Celtic are having to play what is a bit of an untested central defensive pairing in Liam Scales and Gustav Lagerbielke, is it a lot more helpful having someone with the experience of Joe Hart behind them? I mean, it obviously doesn't show in that exact example of where he's sent off, but I'm sure, you know, maybe Celtic fans or Brendan Rodgers would feel a bit more at ease if it was someone of the experience of Joe Hart. Not that Scott Bain's not experienced, but maybe just hasn't played a lot of football of late.
Yeah, well, that's because, listen, experience is not just age. It's been in situations, it's playing games, and Joe Hart has done way more than that, obviously, than Scott Bain. So having him behind those, that inexperienced centre back pairing, is absolutely a bonus. And again, when you've got guys like him, again, Rangers are at Alan McGregor, Hearts have got it in Craig Gordon. When you've got these types of goalkeepers in there, it does help a backline. And again, the defenders, not just the centre backs, but the defenders feel far more comfortable when they know that guy's behind them. So this is someone that they've not played with a lot, very, very, very rarely, and like you say, is not at the level of Joe Hart. So that's just another situation that Celtic are going to have to deal with. They've got a lot of injuries now. They've got their number one goalkeeper going to be suspended for the next couple of games or so. So it's just another situation they're going to have to deal with while still winning.
You've seen this debate down south with Mikel Arteta saying that there was a couple of times last season where he regrets not changing his goalkeeper in the middle of a game to try and help their game plan. It's not something that you've ever really heard any manager talk about before. He's obviously brought in David Raya to challenge Aaron Ramsdale. You imagine, you know, your team rotating your goalkeeper, not even game to game, but in the middle of games. They haven't done it yet. I don't think they've changed their goalkeeper in the middle of the game yet.
I would check that.
He'll check it, but I think the whole conversation was based around that he hadn't done it, and his point was, why not? You know, it's a player on the field. Just because it is it could be a chance for Celtic here. Yeah,
it could be, but it's good defending this time by Louis DeLucas, who of course gave away the penalty earlier on, but manages to just shield the ball out of play away from Kyogo.
Yeah, but going back on that, if your goalkeeper's having a nightmare, or you feel he's not doing something that you want him to be doing, is he not just the same as every other player? It would be really, really strong.
Is it worse for a goalkeeper just from an optics confidence level if you hook your goalkeeper in the middle of a game?
Yeah, because it never happens. You know that, because it never happens. But maybe Arteta can be the first one to actually have this as a ploy, because Why would you want to persist with someone? And by the way, it's not to say Ramsdale's done anything particularly wrong, but in those moments that Mikel Arteta's talking about, he's felt maybe this guy could be better in this moment. He's going to be better at this. By the way, maybe he's just not having a good day, so we maybe just need to take him off because he isn't. It could cost the team. So why would you not do it? It is really, really like we never see it, and it's probably the first time I've actually heard that type of conversation as well. But really, it's a player on the field that is performing, and if he's not performing, then fair enough. I think it'd be fine.
Just to end that discussion, no, they've not done it.
No.
David Raya started the last 2 games, and Aaron Ramsdale has started every game before that this season. Anyway, back to the Scottish side of things. Livingston unable to really test Scott Bain at all since he's been on the park.
So far, we go back to Lagerbielke, Scales. If they can survive the remainder of this game and keep a clean sheet, then it will be a big afternoon for them. But Celtic at the moment are not as comfortable as they looked.
Will Livingston just be quite happy to bide their time at the moment and pick the right opportunity?
Absolutely. There's no way they're going to. I mean, you can see as soon as they sign off, you can see Livingston have now got the ball. You know, they're trying to pass it about. You see Maeda's working, he's defending out to in. You try and shut off the fullback because that's where the spaces are going to be. And Celtic are now, when Livingston have got it, are having to work a little bit harder now just to try and get back onto the ball. Just at this moment, you see Shinnie's dropping back, they're popping the ball, they're having a bit of possession. There's no need for Livingston to go really chasing at this moment. I mean, that'll come. If they don't score and equalise, it will come towards the end of the game. But at this moment, they can just keep the ball, they can make Celtic work. When they're a man down, it is tough. You know, it's when you've got a man down, there's more distance to cover. The striker's going to have to work a little bit harder to get back and help. So openings will come and chances will come as long as they keep asking the questions of that Celtic back defensive pairing.
Well, the throw goes in to the Celtic box, bounces over the head of Joel Newbley, and it's the left boot of Liam Scales that clears things. Obalai with the effort from about 30 yards. It was bouncing, it was maybe creeping into that bottom corner, but Scott Bain diving down to his right to gather it.
I think it was creeping in.
Yeah, good save that was. That was a good save. A little bit of pressure from the home side now, starting to get down the flank, starting to put some balls in to ask questions. Celtic's back line, so just before half time, it'd be a good time for them to score.
Yeah, they just don't look anywhere near as direct as they did earlier on in the game, but I suppose that's the Celtic being a man down. There is a bit more space for them to work in as they cross the ball in from the right, and it bounces off Joel Newbley. There's then a mix-up between Liam Scales and Scott Bain, but it doesn't matter because Scott Bain is able to gather. Sangari just going down with a bit of a head knock there.
You get the impression though that the goalkeeper and central defenders are not in tune with one another due to lack of game time together.
I would be a bit concerned about the space that the Livingston player had there. Sangari, I think that if he adjusts his feet, he's favourite to put that in the back of the net. Lagerbielke's caught in behind.
Yeah, it's Sangari again. It's him getting into the box, and he's a good size as well. So if you put Sangari in there with Joel Newbley, there's a real aerial threat in there for these type of crosses. And what a cross it was for Jamie Brandon. It's just, again, with this pitch, it just kind of bounces up, and Sangari couldn't get it under control. It was a tough opportunity, but he got himself in a really, really dangerous position.
Well, closing in on, well, I was going to say the end of the first half. I think there will be a bit of stoppage time, Hugh, just due to them having to check in the build up to Joe Hart's red card whether Sangari was onside or not. But there is good defending, a bit unconventional there from Liam Scales, who ended up sort of on his knees shielding the ball, but he did well to keep the ball away from Bruce Anderson.
Whatever gets you through. Celtic would be delighted to get in here having suffered no damage. But it's going to be a long afternoon for them second half.
Looking to do some damage of their own. Matt O'Reilly with a shot at the edge of the box. That one's blocked.
Well, of course, if Celtic were to get a goal before half time, then what a lift that would give them. But the whole complexion of the game has changed. It was looking very comfortable for Celtic when they were 1-up, and then Joe Hart, reckless, rash, gave the referee no option but to send them off, and it's a different game now.
4 minutes added. We're already around 30 seconds into those. Celtic were the team in possession there, but have just given it away. The ball being passed straight out of play by Alistair Johnston. It will be disappointing for James Forrest, who will have waited for his start will have been hoping to make an impact today, and then not his fault at all that he's had to be substituted off in the first half.
Yeah, but he obviously, James has been such a big part of that team and the success. He'll know that the reason why he's been brought off. I agree with Kenny. I thought he started very well today. I thought he looked lively. Everything was neat and tidy about him, and he'll be sitting there. He will be disappointed, but James Forrest is a team player and he'll understand the reason why he's been subbed.
Yeah, that ball over the top does tend to be working for Livingston, and I think Joel Newbley just disappointed there because he got in behind Alistair Johnson. The ball was bouncing towards the corner, but as he tried to shield the ball, I think it just bounced up and hit his knee, didn't it, and went out for a goal kick.
You know, again, we've never seen it, but it must have been a good bit of movement for Joel Newbley. He must have came and then spun in behind Alistair Johnson, and James Penrith just put it in. And like you say, as much as Livingston have having the ball when they're making Celtic work, they can't forget what's actually had them success, which is that type of ball in that inside channel on the right side of Celtic's defence.
Yeah, well, Livingston with another chance. It was initially the ball given away by Alistair Johnson. The cross came in from the left. There's a poor touch there by Matt O'Reilly back into the Celtic box, and I think Scott Pittman's just tried to play it across goal. Celtic managed to deal with that one eventually, but a couple of poor bits of defending there from Celtic, initially from Alistair Johnson and then from Matt O'Reilly.
I said earlier that Matt O'Reilly was just strolling around, not doing very much, and that he's had a poor first half. He is one of the players who will have to up his game, or he's putting his own team in trouble.
Real Hatate trying to thread a bit of an ambitious ball, wasn't it, through to Kyogo there, and Livingston win back possession, maybe looking to create one more attack. Alistair Johnson just winning the ball from Joel Newbley and putting it out for a Livingston throw.
I'll be quite happy to get 1-0 now, and Brendan Rodgers has got the opportunity to sit down and tweak one or two little things, because they've they've lost their way a little bit. Livingston, you can see, are growing in confidence, starting to get some decent opportunities now. So Celtic quite happy to get 1-0 and see what happens second half.
Yeah, is the longer that it stays at 1, does that build a bit of belief for Livingston and maybe cause a bit of nervousness around the Celtic team, or will Celtic be quite happy if they're just able to keep Livingston at bay?
No, listen, I don't think they would be happy with the way the game is at the moment, because Livingston are actually having a lot more control. Obviously they've got the extra man, and they're making that extra man count at the moment by keeping a little bit more of the ball. They're still looking a threat by putting the ball over the top, over Johnston and behind Lager Bielka. So they still need to do that. But what they're doing is they're making Celtic work so hard to actually get the ball back.
Well, Celtic do have the ball back now. Dyson Maeda driving forward, but this time the pass is just behind Kyogo.
It's been a feature of Celtic since the red card in particular. The passing has been careless, and that was a good opportunity for Dyson Maeda to play in Kyogo, but shocking pass.
I think if you're David Martindale, as much as you've got a grip of the game just now, you've got to be looking for better for me.
Half time?
Yes, half time. We will go to the Tony Macaroni Arena shortly to get the picture of things, the view from Gabriel there. But what have you made of it so far, Hugh? Celtic taking the lead early, looked as if they may well be able to wrap up the game pretty quickly and pretty early. However, red cards change games.
It's amazing. Game of two halves in one half. Celtic cruising, and then Joe Hart has his rash moment and Celtic down to 10 men, and now you're looking at a goalkeeper who, for me, journeyman goalkeeper but not out of the top drawer, Scott Bain, playing behind a central defensive partnership that's there by accident because of injuries. You've got Lager Bielka beside Scales, and neither fullback covering themselves in glory either. Livy must think that there is at least an equaliser in this game for them, because Celtic going forward have been sloppy. O'Reilly and Hatate, poor decision making, and the penalty has been the only moment of joy for Celtic, and I think it's a very long second half coming up for them.
Yeah, what will the message be from Brendan Rodgers at the break, Kenny?
I still think he'll want to have more control on the ball. I think he's like I said, nothing really changed. And listen, unless he makes changes, unless he looked at what's went on in that last 10 minutes of that first half and he's thought, right, I don't like that, they've got too much control, I need to change something to take that away from them. I think how they do that is actually by still playing the way they're actually trying, like the way they were playing that first half an hour. Like you say, the back four and the midfield three hasn't changed. You know, they can still control the game, and it's still hard for Livingston to chase and get it back when they're doing that well. It's just they have been pretty sloppy, like Hugh says. I think Maeda to Kyogo, it's been O'Reilly, it's been Alistair Johnson out the pitch. They've made their attacking play really quite painful to watch, actually, because I just think the man down has really affected them. So he'll be wanting to get more control again, Brendan, because even though you're down to 10 men, I still think you can have that. But he might make changes, because there's no doubt Livingston have been the dominant team over this last 12-15 minutes.
I'll tell you what, let's get the story at half time from the Tony Macaroni Arena from Gabriel.
Half time here, and it is Livingston 0, Celtic 1. The 10 men in front thanks to Rio Hatate's penalty, but no thanks to Joe Hart, who saw red for a last man challenge. The Tony Macaroni Arena is always a tough place to come for any opposition, so Celtic were thankful when Rio Hatate was brought down by Louis De Lucas in the box. Hatate grabbed the ball himself, and it was not the greatest penalty he's ever taken, but it squeezed under Shamal George. Celtic then looked in control. Dyson Maeda took a brilliant touch and turn in the box, smashed the ball towards goal, but a great save by George from close range stopped the score doubling. Livy had threatened on the counter a few times before Mo Sangare sprinted through. He was clattered by Hart outside the box, and the referee correctly dismissed him. Celtic's third red card in under an hour of football. James Penrice put the resulting dangerous free kick into the side netting. Now the game looks a lot more balanced, even if the defending champions still have the majority of the ball. These next 45 minutes could have huge ramifications on the title race. Can Celtic hold on to victory, or will Livingston break through? At the interval, Celtic remain in the lead, but we have a huge second half coming up.
Yes, second half from the Tony Macaroni Arena coming up next.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard with Call Robert Accident Repair. Accident not your fault? You'll be back on the road within 24 hours. The winning team all season long. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
Half time between Livingston and Celtic at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Celtic 1-0 up, a Rio Hatate penalty the difference. However, it isn't that straightforward, because Joe Hart, with what is his first career red card, Hugh, it means that the complexion of the game has changed quite a lot.
What a season of chaos it's been for Celtic. They lose Carter Vickers, their best defender, for months because of injury. They then have their £4 million Polish signing, Mike Nawrocki, out to injury as well, long term. Stephen Welsh, given a long term contract, and the very same day breaks down in training, and he's out for weeks as well. Now you've got Liam Scales, who would probably be an Aberdeen player by this time, were it not for Celtic's season of chaos. He's there with Lagerbielke in central defence, which no one could see coming at all. And the failure to buy a backup goalkeeper to Joe Hart has come back to bite Celtic, because with respect to Scott Bain, he's I can only use the phrase again, a journeyman goalkeeper, but not from the top drawer. And so Celtic have to cope in the second half against a Livy team who look as if they know the way to goal, and they have to cope for at least 45 minutes. They're a goal up, but they'll have some job holding on to that lead.
Yeah, a big test of the mettle of this Celtic team now, Kenny, for the next 45 minutes.
It is. I mean, I still think they're a threat. I still think they're more than capable of going and getting the second goal and giving them that little bit of breathing space. But if the end of the first half's anything to go by, Livingston are going to be the team that are going to be asking the questions of that Celtic backline, that inexperienced Celtic backline and goalkeeper that Hugh was referring to. But Brendan will be into his team now, and there's no doubt he'll be giving them the information that he's seen of how they can actually take more control in this game. But for Davy Martindale, I think it's going to be much of the same. Let's not forget what got us success. It's balls over the top, it's good movement for Nubly, it's Sangari being that threat over the top. It's just, can they create that chance? You know, as much as they've had moments, they've not had a really outstanding chance. I think I would still say Bruce Anderson's, whilst it was 11 men, was probably still the best chance that they had. So it's, can they create that chance to get them back into the game? And like you say, there's no need for them to change at this moment and go gung-ho, because they're having decent enough success without creating that chance. But the longer it goes, the more risk they'll need to take.
I think if you're in the Livingston camp, you're sitting there at half time thinking, have we got to get a better chance now? You know, they don't win against Celtic. You know, they don't pick up a lot of points against Celtic. Okay, they're 1 down, but they've played 10-15 minutes first half. They've got 45 plus in the second half. They're at home where everybody says it's difficult. They've lost their number one goalkeeper, Celtic. So you're sitting there as a Livingston player and David Martindale, you're thinking, we've not got a better chance here of going picking something up. And that puts a little bit of pressure on you as well, because you'd expect that Livingston should create a few chances. But I'm with Kenny a little bit here. Don't write Celtic off. They've still got quality players that can undo you.
It's for Brendan Rodgers, it's striking that right balance, isn't it? Because they have been exposed a couple of times, especially for the red card from balls over the top, but they'll still feel that they can, go forward and cause Livingston problems at the other end. It's just about how they manage to do both.
Without
with
doubt,
10 men.
Without doubt, because we've got two guys that are willing workers. They'll run all day for you, and plus the fact if you give them an opportunity, they'll find the back of net. I agree with you. O'Reilly's not had his best 45 minutes, but quality player. Hatate for me still getting up to speed, quality player. And if you give McGregor a space, especially if you look at the first goal, McGregor's got all the space in the world. He picks a great ball out, well, an easy ball for him, out to Taylor. He fires it through Hatate. Celtic are 1-0 up. That's as easy as Celtic can get it. So it just shows you, if you step off them and you think you're in control of the game, they've got quality that can go and beat you.
At some point there's going to have to be a test of the Celtic squad today, because at some point Brendan Rodgers is going to tweak, he's going to change something in order to get through this afternoon. And for me, the inclusion of James Forrest in the starting 11 reflected badly on the bench, because there are players brought in by Celtic who were supposed to be ahead of James Forrest in the queue. James Forrest has paid the price for Joe Hart's recklessness, and he's off. But at some point Brendan Rodgers is going to have to look at that bench and say, who can I trust under these circumstances?
A lot of those players as well will feel they have something to prove, which could work in their favour.
Well, there are no excuses. You can't say, I don't really perform at my best on a synthetic surface. Celtic now need all hands to the pump, and Brendan Rodgers is going to have to look at that bench and think, can he do a job for me? Louis Palma is there, Paulo Bernardo is there, O is there, Yang is there. So at some point it's going to be a test of those who have been brought in.
Yeah, Gordon, it's a big enough test for Livingston having to keep Celtic at bay from open play. So will that be the real frustration from David Martindale, that yes, Celtic found it pretty easy to pass into Livingston's box on that occasion, but then the decision for Louis De Lucas just to put his foot in where he's never really going to win the ball. When Livingston are coming up against Celtic, they need to do everything right. They need to defend their box well, they need to cut off those passing lanes, and they'll really, you can't give away penalties, you can't give away free kicks in dangerous positions, you can't concede from set pieces.
I did say before the Joe Hart incident that Celtic in the middle of the park especially were getting the freedom of Livingston. And if you give those guys, as much as we said that O'Reilly isn't at his best this afternoon, Hatate is off it a little bit, but he'll come again. If you give them with McGregor in there that sort of space, they're going to hurt you, especially the movement in front. Kyogo, Maeda, Forrest when he was on. So as much as David Martindale will fancy something in the second half, what he will be saying to his players is, listen, we have to concentrate and be careful, because they can punish us.
Yeah, the players just making their way out the tunnel at the moment. Doesn't look as if it's going to be any changes from Celtic at the break. Just waiting to see the Livingston team emerge from the tunnel, whether it's the same team. Would you expect the same lineups for the start of this second half, Kenny?
Definitely a Livingston point of view, yep. I think I can't see there being too many changes. There's not been a game there's actually not been too much wrong over the course of the game. Celtic were just better, you would expect that in that first half an hour. So no, I would expect Livingston to be the same, and maybe even the same for Celtic. There might be a few tweaks within the Celtic kind of lineup of how their positions and things, but it doesn't look like they've made any personnel changes.
Clyde One Super Scoreboard. Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy. Get your essential medicines and vaccines before you head off on holiday.
Yes, underway for the second half between Livingston and Celtic. It was certainly an eventful opening 45 minutes. We'll see what this has in store. When you just look around the stadium as well, you know, Livingston are one of the clubs that don't mind giving a big away support to the likes of Celtic and Rangers. A lot of teams have maybe gone away from that trend. You look at Kilmarnock, you look at St Mirren, that have reduced the capacity for Celtic and Rangers fans going there. Livingston quite happy to let really as many Celtic or Rangers fans go in as possible. Do you think that has a negative effect on the home side at all? Are they just kind of used to it at this point?
Listen, I think they'll be used to it. So whether it's a negative effect on them, I would say it's just more a positive on Celtic and Rangers when they turn up. And why would they not? Why would they not want 2-3 full houses over the course of the season? As a lot of revenue comes in.
Joel Nubley with the cross there, but it's well defended by Celtic.
Yeah, a lot of revenue coming in when you're getting all enough. I don't know what it is. Was it 7,000-8,000 through the gate when the Old Firm come to town? So listen, it makes sense for me.
Kenny, I think Dave Martindale would let Rangers fans in this afternoon as well, as long as they were paying.
Absolutely,
it's all about the money for them.
Another chance.
Oh yeah, it was a chance that came to Sangari in the middle of the box, who's found himself in plenty of good positions so far today. It was actually a really nice cross from the right, wasn't it? It landed at the feet of Sangari, who was at the penalty spot, but it came at him quite quickly. Maybe a tough one to take on the bounce. Kenny, should he have done better?
Listen, I think he's got a clean enough hit on it. He's just not got the direction on it. It was a good chance, but you're right, he's found himself in some really dangerous positions. Obviously, firstly, but in the run to get Joe Hart sent off, but then he had the opportunity for the Jamie Brandon cross as well. He then made another run beyond after the sending off, and now he finds himself round about the penalty spot for a cut back type cross for Jamie Brandon again. So he's been the best player for Livingston. I know Nubley has been a handful, but Sangari with the energy and his forward running and arriving in the box, he's been outstanding.
I've been impressed with him. I've been.
There's a dangerous ball across the face of goal, and somehow it stayed out initially, but
no, I think that's offside. There is a problem.
With M&D Green Pharmacy.
Matt O'Reilly celebrates. He's the one that's prodded the ball over the line, and the 10 men of Celtic have a second goal. Kyogo was basically on the goal line, somehow didn't manage to squeeze the ball past Shamal George. The ball rebounded back out, and there was Matt O'Reilly on hand to make it 2-0 to Celtic.
Well, having said he had strolled through the game and needed to do more work, Maeda had a sloppy go at it.
That was Kyogo's cross, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maeda just in the 6-yard box. Just doesn't make good contact with the ball at all, does he?
But O'Reilly, that's a big moment, and you can see the delight on Brendan Rodgers' face as he shakes hands with the rest of his backroom staff, because the second half had began with Celtic looking as if they were going to be backs to the wall, but Matt O'Reilly's goal surely changes the complexion yet again.
Let me say just honestly here, Kenny and I would be saying if we were Maida, that was an assist. I cannot believe what he was doing there.
I don't even know what he's trying. I think he tries to hit it in with his backside. It's like
he sort of twists as he's trying to hit the ball. He's got 3 yards out.
That's Maeda in these types of finishing positions. You get so many chances, but there's no a real kind of confidence about him to go to finish it. I mean that should be a, and it turned out to be a goal, and like you say, maybe half an assist for O'Reilly, but that should be he's a yard out, you know. Davy Martindale will be gutted with that, and by gutted, forget that, angry with that type of defending for that, because it's an easy cross. You're actually man for man in the box as well. After you had started the second half pretty well and had a couple of half chances yourself, you now find it a long way back.
See, that's the difference when you're playing against top quality players. We've said first half O'Reilly been poor for his standards.
Chance.
Yeah, strike here. Scott Bain called into action, but an easy save low to his right.
But when you think these players are off their game, all of a sudden, just that one moment, it just can turn a game for you. Hatati's got it in his locker. O'Reilly's a terrific footballer. He's in the right position, and he obviously buries it and takes his chance.
You were wondering what Daisen Maeda was thinking there. I'd love to know what you were thinking when you said that one's offside. Where on earth in that move did you think?
No, what happened, right? When he ran to celebrate, I seen John Beaton coming over and pointing, and I thought surely he's not going to give offside here. So I was questioning John Beaton. If you watch it again, nothing to do with
you having that explanation here.
I thought it was a perfectly well taken goal.
I'll tell you why I'm on the Dazzler side here, because whenever a goal is scored by any team now, I always think, will it stand? Will it be allowed to stand? we come up with, I'm not just talking about Scottish football, we come up with all sorts of weird and wonderful ways for goals not to be given now.
It was just the way the referee reacted to you, and I was a bit concerned. But obviously, when you see the replay, it's okay for you guys. I make the decisions early, I go quickly. I thought that, there's a famous face in the ground there. Tell me that is Peter Beasley.
Absolutely is, yeah.
Please see that.
Oh, mistake from Scott Bain, caught in the ball. Joel Newbley dinks it, but only onto the roof of the net. And we talked about Scott Bain coming into this game. He only played one game across the whole of last season, a game where he made some mistakes against Hibs, caught on the ball by Joel Newbley there. Joel Newbley then tries to dink the ball over him, just too much on it.
You can hardly slaughter Bain though, because Joe Hart's the same with the ball at his feet. But that's another major let off for Celtic, and it'd be criminal to have your lead reduced because of something like that. But I go back to the argument, Celtic in the summer should have bought a backup goalkeeper for Joe Hart and didn't. It's just one of the many questions being asked about Celtic's summertime signing policy.
There were a lot of callers on this show during the summer that weren't wanting a backup to Joe Hart. They were wanting a replacement for Joe Hart.
Yeah. All of a sudden Celtic, having had the encouragement of the second goal, are coming up against it here. But to go back to your point, Andrew, Celtic should have signed a goalkeeper. It's perfectly straightforward. Should have signed backup for Kyogo, didn't. The manager's had his say midweek about the signings, and said that every manager wants more players, and he was no different. There, I think, is a glaring omission. They should have signed another goalkeeper.
Should they do better there, Kenny, or do you think he's unlucky?
Again, on that pitch, to dink the ball when you're about 14 yards out, to get it up that high over the goalkeeper and down, it's actually a really difficult technique. He's unfortunate, I think.
Once again, it's one of those moments that may give Livingston a bit of hope that they can create something, or they can pounce on a potential Celtic mistake. But it's maybe harder to have that belief when you've gone in at half time, your opposition are down to 10 men, and then you've pretty much conceded again instantly.
No, they have. But what I'd say is, you can talk about Celtic it was their only attack that they've had in this 7 minutes. Livingston, it's been all Livingston, but Celtic, again, with the level of player they've got, they've taken their opportunity. Livingston have got themselves into good situations and they've not made the most of them, and that's the difference. That's why Celtic pay the big bucks for the players. That's why they've got the money to pay transfer fees. And when Davy Martindale's been talking about budgets, that's why that they've taken their moments. Something they've actually not done, obviously, in the European games. It's something that both Ange and Brendan have been talking about. But today, that was a big moment, and they took it, and it gives them that breathing space now, because Livingston have actually started the second half pretty well.
Gordon, Roger Hannah said we were to go easy on you about you saying that it could have been offside, because at least you knew which team had scored this time.
Yeah, the big goalkeeper for Hugh's team.
If anyone was listening on Thursday night, Frankfurt against Aberdeen on the television. Frankfurt 1-0 up, the ball goes in the back of the net, Aberdeen equalise, and Gordon Dalziel thinks Frankfurt have gone 2-0 up. He's been watching the whole game thinking that the teams are in opposite kits.
I can't believe they decided to play in the white. But Celtic come forward again.
I like how he swiftly moved on from that as soon as there was any slight opening there.
I held my hands up on the night. I can't do any more and say, yes, I got it wrong. 12, 13 years on this show, you've got to get something wrong. But I'm just interesting now that we're talking about David Martindale. He's been doing okay, the position wise and his formation wise. For me, he's got to change something now. I know we're saying, they're get possessed, they've got a couple of half chances. They've got to score 2 goals at least.
Matt O'Reilly with the reverse pass to Kyogo, who's looking to deliver from that right wing again.
Reversed it too much.
Yeah, Matt O'Reilly sort of contorts his body to try and flick that one goalwards because the cross was behind him, but unable to create anything. But once again, Celtic can come forward. They've won the ball again. Greg Taylor winning a corner for Celtic.
Well, it's a tremendously spirited display from Celtic, and the fans will appreciate it. 10 men playing 11, but they are working. Hatate and O'Reilly could both be better. They could be crisper in their passing and show a greater level of aggression. But for Celtic to be 2 up under these circumstances is very satisfying for Brendan Rodgers and the fans.
Kenny, how much does it sort of take out of a team when they're having to play with 10 men?
Listen, it's it's just so much more space that you need to cover. I mean, at this moment, you're thinking you're just losing that one player in the front line. Yeah, but it's when you're chasing the ball. And Livingston have actually been okay at making Celtic work a lot harder to actually get the ball back since the sending off. So I'll take a look. Listen, that's why you've got 4 subs he can make now. So he'll definitely go to his bench, Brendan, and freshen the things up. Now they've got that breathing space. It's not. I agree with Gordon. I think Livingston need to actually show a little bit more urgency in the attack now, because they now need to go back and get a couple of goals, and they have done okay, but they need to start turning that into actually decent opportunities.
Yeah, we have talked a lot about how the 5 substitutes rule does favour the bigger teams with the bigger squads. This is where it can really come in handy for Celtic.
Yeah,
as Livingston go to make a triple change.
I said that I agreed with Kenny the way that Livingston were playing. They looked dangerous at times, but for me they had to change. They've got 11v10. They've got to change something. They weren't getting goals from that formation, but for a change 3 as quickly, he's obviously taking a big gamble on it, and he's going to certainly go for it.
Yeah, Bruce Anderson lining up the shot. Liam Scales just managing to get a touch on that one, took the sting out of it, and Scott Bain gathers easily.
Yeah, it's, for Celtic, the potential is there for Brendan Rodgers to say, there you are, there's the character and resilience and all of the things that managers like to say if they've held on. I agree. I think 3 at the one time is maybe too much.
Well, he's certainly changing the formation. See,
Scott Pittman is the first one that goes off for Stephen Kelly. Parks and Bradley coming on as well. Sangari off. Is that a surprise?
Astonished at that. I thought he was their best player by a country mile. I am astonished by that. If you were going to get a goal, I thought he was a guy that would probably get you back into the game. But David Martindale, he's a manager. He sees something different, changing 1 or 2 things. See, when you talk about 11v10, when you're up against good teams and quality players, it makes a difference. For me, it doesn't make the greatest difference against Livingston, because their back men don't come in and play into the middle of the park and play with overloads. They give Celtic the opportunity with Kyogo and Maida to go and close things down. They've got to commit more men forward for me.
Yeah, Livingston not happy with that decision. They are coming together between Alistair Johnson and Joel Newbley.
Well, he's holding him
Joel
off.
Newbley was adjudged to have fouled Alistair Johnson from the ball over the top.
I think that's a fair enough decision. Alistair Johnson booked already, so he has to be very careful. If Celtic were to go down to 9 men for the second time in a matter of days, it would be astonishing. But Tomoki Iwata is going to come on, and we'll see where he fits into the grand scheme of things for Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, a player that hasn't really looked in favour.
No.
In terms of Brendan Rodgers' first few games, he came on midweek, but really only out of necessity after the red cards, but has maybe played his way into Brendan Rodgers' thoughts now, or certainly seen something in training that he likes a bit more.
Played in defence, remember in the Scottish Cup final when Celtic won that, they give the ball away again very carelessly. A chance for Livingston.
Yeah, they're playing their way into the box. It's Parks who's just off the bench, tries to lay it to the edge of the box, but Matt O'Reilly's on hand to steal the ball away and play a ball up the park for Kyogo over to the right winger. Really good. I mean, initially it looked as if he was just clearing the ball, but he's actually picked out Kyogo from about 50 yards away.
That's one of your passes, Kenny. You've got that in your
That's not for me. I'm just a 10-yard move passer.
I would need 3 goals. I'd need a driver, a 3-wood, and a 9-iron to get there.
This is what astonished me about you, Gordon Dalziel, earlier when we were talking in the office. Kenny was talking about the fact that he's got a bit of a facial injury that you picked up at Fives a few days ago. What was it? You were in goal?
In the goal, because my 2 groins have went and the ball was coming flying at my face, so I put my hand up, and sure enough the ball hits my hand and digs my own nails into my eye, and that was it. So, and then I'll let you carry on with the story.
Kenny likes to keep fit, keep in at Fives, playing regularly. Quite a lot of ex-footballers do. Gordon Dalziel was saying, nope, you know what, I actually don't play Fives. And then gave us the revelation that Gordon Dalziel genuinely says that since he retired, he has not ran or jogged once. And I'm not meaning going out for a run or a jog. Gordon Dalziel says he does not know if he's capable of jogging because he has not tried it in how many years?
Well, I retired when I was 34.
You've not ran for a train?
No.
For a bus? You've not ran quickly to cross the street?
Well, I did have the occasion last night. I was out for my usual walk and the traffic was coming. I thought, I don't know if I could make that. So I had to basically wait for the traffic to go.
You had to wait for the traffic to clear because
so
you don't back yourself to do a brisk jog. That is absolutely incredible.
Just to let you know, there's more than one way of keeping fit. I do a lot of weights and a lot of walking. You know, I'm a very healthy lad. And you can see that by the
I also think that's separate because it's not even about keeping fit. It's just about having instances in your life where you maybe need to do a bit of a jog or a bit of a run, and you've not done that since you were 34.
No, I don't.
Not once in your life.
No.
Genuine, that blows my mind.
Well, you see, I agree with Dazzler.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
For example, I don't drive a car, therefore I walk everywhere. And I walk long distances. And walking long distances every day is a legitimate way of keeping your fitness.
We're not talking about keeping fitness though. We're just talking about the fact that surely at some point in your life you would have had to have done a slight bit of a jog for anything.
No, have a look at Hugh. Do you think Hugh would run? No. I couldn't see Hugh running. Can you?
First of all, Hugh has a few years on you. Second of all, you're an ex-professional athlete.
Right, okay. I do agree with that. But I don't think it's in my locker now. I don't know if I've got it. That's a problem.
Past that, just past running. You don't need to run. Just walk the golf course every day.
4 miles.
Let's go on to something you do know about. Why is Iwata on and Hatate off?
I would have made that substitution. I think Hatate's not had a lot of game time. You know, the middle of part's important for Celtic. He gives them that little bit of cover in there, bit more energy going forward as well, as you see here.
Well, Celtic have the numbers on the break. Callum McGregor goes for the strike and it's blocked decision by Iobala. He did have options left and right. They maybe just didn't move the ball quickly enough there, did they, Celtic?
No, and it was Matt O'Reilly again. He's not blessed as much. He's got wonderful ability. He's not blessed with great pace, so he was kind of waiting for the supporting cast to come, and like you say, it just gave Livingston a chance to come back and snuff it out. But to go back on the Iwata, when I actually had that as a sub that I would have been making, Iwata come on. It's another defensive minded midfielder. Had Livingston got back in it, you had like guys like Holm or Turnbull or Bernardo that could have came on, because again we talked about O'Reilly not really affecting the game in the first half. So it could have been either. It could have been for me O'Reilly or Hatate, but maybe the fact that Hatate hasn't had that game time and O'Reilly is maybe a little bit more up to speed in terms of minutes. That's why it's been Hatate.
The compliment I can give Celtic is they look the team more likely to score the next goal for me. Now you see there they've got 10 men. O'Reilly wins the ball. They've got 5 players breaking, so they're obviously fancying another goal. They're not sitting going, "Well, protect us 2-0." They fancy another goal. Livingston to me is huffed and puffed and they've blown themselves out. They need something to give them some sort of spark.
Does it strike you as funny again, you know, Iwata comes on but none of the new signings, you know?
It's more about the game plan though rather than anything else. Is it not more about sort of shoring up that midfield and having 2 sitting midfielders that then maybe gives Matt O'Reilly a bit more freedom rather than, you know, throwing on a Yang or a Paulo Bernardo or someone that, you know, a more attacking outlet that's maybe not going to see a lot of the ball? It's
just a peculiarity of the day that only one of the summertime signings, Lager Bielka, starts the game, and all of the summertime signings are still sitting on the bench.
I wonder if it's maybe a deliberate strategy though, in terms of tough conditions now in game, but beforehand Brendan Rodgers will have known that, intentionally picking players that have been through it at Livingston, that have won their last 2 games away at Livingston 3-0 and 3-1, that having that familiarity, easy for me to say, is maybe just less of a gamble.
Well, you know, I like Iwata as a player, but he's just giving the ball away carelessly there, which, you know, as the minutes go by and the Celtic players feel the numerical disadvantage, could have been doing without that.
Yeah, DeLucas striding into the Celtic box, nothing coming of it initially, but they will have another chance to create something. Joel Nubley with the right-footed cross, and Scott Bain just didn't really need to get a hand on that, did he? The cross was going out for a throw-in. It was going out for a goal kick, and he just sort of jumps up and sort of
I think he
half-heartedly
I
puts
might
his
be going
hand
early
up,
with
does
this
he?
one, but I don't think Hugh's a fan of Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just bad goalkeeping.
I think he just got a wee bit concerned that cross was starting to move towards a goal, and he felt he needed to act. But
Does he maybe need a shout there as well from someone? Or
No, he's got to deal with that. He's in
goalkeepers
control
know
of
what their
that.
goal is. Aye.
They don't move, as they say. That's what I was told.
So he's already almost crossed Celtic by dallying on the ball, and Newbley puts the ball over the bar, and now he's putting his defence under greater pressure. But I'll say it one last time: Celtic should have signed a backup goalkeeper in the summer, and the fact that they did not is a puzzle.
yellow card for Andrew Shinnie there. It was Tomoki Iwata who just played the ball away from Shinnie, tried to go round one side of him, Shinnie just blocking him off. Not sure there'll be too many complaints about that one.
David Martindale having another chat. I think there's maybe another change available here for him.
I think they made a mistake taking Singh. I know we said it.
I couldn't believe that. I could not believe that.
He's been their best player on the day. He's been their biggest threat going forward as well.
Celtic breakaway. Celtic's the team up.
Yeah, they are. There's a ball from Kyogo.
Maeda.
It's inch perfect to Maeda, but it's a really good save from Shamal George. He was quick off his line and smothers it.
Don't you think that Maeda should have scored?
I think he
should have scored two. He should have had two.
I thought he should have went a wee bit quicker to the ball, Hugh.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I think he gave good goalkeeping, but he gave the goalkeeper every opportunity to close that down there for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure Kyogo could have done much more really with the ball across. Seemed to
fine.
time it very well, and then Dyson Maeda. I mean, we'd need to see it back for certain. Sometimes, in those angles, you can't quite see how much room the striker has. But Shamal George just smothering it as Livingston are now into the Celtic box. It is quite end to end at the moment. A lot happening. They get the shot away, but Liam Skell's just booting that one into the Livingston half.
For me, Kyogo did everything that could have been asked of him, and Maeda is just a poor finisher at times. I mean, the first one that gave Kenny a laugh was the one that ended in Matt O'Reilly's goal. We have no idea what he was attempting to do, and that one, I think, should have been goal number 3 for Celtic.
Yeah, yet to see a replay of that one, but how do you think Brendan Rodgers will view this second half so far? Happy?
No, over the moon. I'm a bit disappointed in Livingston. If you've got, and they're making an hour,
2 more changes, their final two.
All they're doing is they're just throwing things at it. I don't even know if they've got a game plan now. But if you've got 11v10 and you've got 2 centre halves that are not crossing the halfway line, you've basically got a 9v9 in the Celtic half. So you've not got a man advantage. You've got to get your back men forward and cause overloads and cause problems against Celtic. They're playing right into Celtic's hands. Brendan Rodgers will be over the moon. Very positive. Kept Maeda and Kyogo up top. He knows what he's getting off them. They look the better side for me.
Yeah, just over 20 minutes to go. Those 2 changes haven't taken place yet for Livingston. I think it is going to be Curtis Guthrie and Lawal that come on. Livingston looking to maybe create something before they're able to make those changes. The cross from the left comes in, and the header, he was just having to run back the way he wasn't he, Bruce Anderson, to try and crane his neck to get that one goalwards.
But they're putting the ball back to James Penrice to cross. Firstly, it's Newbley that's laying it back, and secondly, they've taken Sangari off, who was their biggest threat. In the box, they've got Jason Holt and Bruce Anderson and Bradley coming in. Newbley needs to be in the middle as the threat on the end of the cross, and when they've taken off their biggest threat in Sangari from midfield, it's Celtic will eat that up all day. Even with Lagerbielke and Scales, the inexperienced backlock, they're just going to defend those types of situations all day against the personnel that they find themselves up against it in that box.
I do wonder, as I say, every coach and every manager sees the game's different, and David Martindale's quite right. He's been very successful at Livingston, but I cannot understand that substitution. I really cannot. He's taken the for me the only danger that Livingston had off the pitch and played right into Celtic's hands.
Yellow card for Bradley, just a late challenge on Greg Taylor. That's another player into the book. Quite a few bookings so far in this game. Stephen Bradley, the latest.
I don't think it's been a particularly dirty game. There's just been a few mistimed tackles. We'll
see this save again from Shamal George. Kyogo playing the ball over from the right. It gets to around the penalty spot.
Got to score.
Kenny?
Yeah, listen, he's got to score. I don't think he can actually get to, unless he actually goes and meets the ball, because he's waiting for it to come to him. But it gives George that opportunity to close the space, and he
We're
does
giving
it. It's a good save.
It's
a good save.
The
but
goalkeeper's on top of him very, very quickly.
for a forward, you've got to score that. You know,
Would you
it's-
just think that?
I think he's tried to, and I think he's actually got. I mean, I wouldn't say Maeda did try, but he lifted it. He's lifted it to try and get it over George, and George has got a good, strong hand on it. So it was good goalkeeping, but again, he'll be disappointed he's not on the score sheet with one of those two chances that he's had.
Kyogo's afternoon is over as well. He's taken off, and who is instantly involved in things, gets a couple of shots away at an angle on Shamal George and comes away with the ball. I think the flag was actually up, but showing his physical presence there, which he has. He's obviously a different profile of striker to Kyogo, but just holding off DeLucas, I think it was, runs slightly too early, but winning that physical battle with DeLucas, holds him off, gets a couple of shots away, but Shamal George once again off his line quickly.
Yeah, he's a different threat, that's for sure, because he's a more powerful striker rather than like the sharp kind of movement of Kyogo. So it gives Livingston defenders something different. And in this last 19 minutes or so, maybe Celtic might try and get the ball up to him and play that type of way and get up and support him. But he's another player that at this moment he's not really hit any kind of form for Celtic. Yeah, he's not had a lot of kind of starting opportunities, but he's been coming off the bench for these types of 15-20 minute appearances. But I'm not sure. Like I say, I think you probably agree with Hugh that Celtic maybe needed another option up front instead of Kyogo, because doesn't quite look like the quality as yet.
Jurgen Klinsmann loves him in the South Korean national squad, but he scored one or two good goals for Celtic, but he is no Kyogo. He is no backup.
But then how hard is it to find another Kyogo?
But you can...
and in the limited game time that always had, he came in and scored 7 goals in the second half of last season for a guy that wasn't a regular starter at all. That's not a bad record for a young striker.
Celtic used to have Giacomakis, who posed a real threat. Doesn't do that for me.
I'm going to defend him, Hugh. I see something. I like him, right? Can I argue that he's been brilliant for Celtic so far? No. I think you boys will win that argument all day long. But I see something in him. I really do. I think he needs a run of games. He can get a goal. He gives a different threat for you. He works hard for a team. I just think he's like everybody else. He just needs a run of games, bit of confidence, because I think he has got ability.
But that's really not going to come. That run of games is never going to come.
Well, you don't know, because you don't know about injuries.
Yeah,
you look at Kyogo's shoulder just now. That could develop. All of a sudden, football's their skills. You never thought would have said Scales would have got that amount of games for Celtic. There's close season. Of course we wouldn't. So football changes very quickly. And if he was given the opportunity, I'd be confident that he would do okay for Celtic.
Well, he's got the opportunity now.
It's a bit different though, isn't it? Because with 10 men, it's not going to be a sort of straightforward opportunity for him to come on and show exactly what he can do, because the game plan is quite different to what it would be if it was a normal game against Livingston when you have 10 men. But
the object of the exercise since the red card for Joe Hart has been to stand tall and work your backside off for the team. And at the moment, Celtic 2 up. It's an outstanding day for Celtic because they've overcome every obstacle and they have defended their goal. The goalkeeper has put them under more pressure than any outfield player, but that's why has to come on and be that guy as well. He has to really, there is an opportunity there for him to fulfill a role that gets Celtic over the line, and once they are over the line, they can look back on this day with nothing but satisfaction.
No hanging about for Samson Lawal, just on the pitch, already booked.
I'm a bit disappointed with Livingston. You seen there, they had the ball in the middle of the park. They've got that man advantage. They're looking to get back into the game. They've got one striker up the top against Celtic's back four. You've got to push men forward, get them in the wide areas, get your midfield supporting. I think they've lost everything since the substitutions. I really do. The first 3 substitutions, I think David played right into Brendan Rodgers' hands. I think they've lost the momentum, the game plan, everything's gone for me.
I think the second goal's absolutely just deflated them, because how many times have we seen Joel Newbley running behind Alistair Johnson, Lager Bielka in the second half? I can't remember one. It was 5, 6, 7 times first half. Maybe that's down to how Celtic are looking to try and stop that type of attack, but I don't really see how they could. But it's just been, I think the second goal was just deflated Livingston altogether, because they have this, they're playing hopeful kind of football at the moment, that something drops and somebody does something, whereas I felt the first half there was a real kind of threat, particularly on this right hand side. I've not really seen that, and Gordon's right, if anybody's going to score again here, I would say it's probably going to be Celtic.
Yeah, under 15 minutes to go of the regulation 90 at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Rio Hatate's penalty in the first half giving Celtic the lead. Joe Hart sent off, but that goal just after half time from Matt O'Reilly has Celtic 2-0 up, and they're still searching for that third goal. It's a lovely ball over the top, and the ball across the face of goal is just cleared, but Celtic, not resting on their laurels at 2-0 up to 10 men.
He's supposed to be the sitting midfield player that I've heard about. He's had more forward runs than anyone in the park. He's been terrific since he's come on. Great energy. O'Reilly, I think, stepped his game up second half, got his goal, played a terrific ball in there. That's a beautiful ball. And we're saying there that if anybody's got to score, I think it will be Celtic.
Well, it could well be Celtic now. With the chance, and fires wide. Probably should have hit the target there.
Did he go, oh? Oh.
I mean, it's set up perfect.
I've got
again,
to score.
Good set up for it. That's the outside the foot pass. It's right there.
It's
shocking
attempt.
It gets all wrong. Yeah,
It's
all wrong.
It's Sonny's weaker left foot here.
He couldn't kick doors at Halloween.
I don't even know what.
Is he maybe just a bit wary of Obalai closing down in front of him? He doesn't strike through the ball properly.
I don't think Obalai is closing down. He's standing still trying to block it. I felt he should have been actually moving forward to close it.
He
but
was
he
nearer
allowed him
the
to shot.
corner flag than he was the goalpost. Let me say that. But I think there's a difference. I think Brendan Rodgers' substitutions have made a difference, right? Whereas David just threw three guys on and basically gambled
for the best.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, surely there will have been some sort of game plan from David Martindale. He's not just throwing three players on.
You need to tell me what it is, because I've not seen it at all. I'm not being critical.
We'll get him to
David.
tell us after the game.
Yeah, listen, there's nobody a bigger fan than David Martindale and myself. I really like David, but I think these handed Celtic, and Celtic have got quality players. I thought the substitutions were mind-boggling for me. Take their best player off, the only guy that looked like a threat to score a goal. I don't understand that one.
Celtic could be 4 up. Maeda had for me a bad miss, and allowed the goalkeeper a save, and it's just a shocking attempt. What was a really good chance.
Yeah, a bit of a wild effort there from Iwata as well, around 30 yards out. The ball sort of sitting up for him or dropping for him nicely, but just fires that one way over the bar. But Celtic, they're having a decent spell of pressure at the moment.
I think, to be honest with you, I think Brendan Rodgers will be delighted. The disappointment of midweek, they go to a difficult place, they lose their goalkeeper. The reaction's been very, very good. Down to 10 men for 60 plus minutes. I think they've been honestly, I think it's been a real good afternoon. I think they've been very, very decent, and if they can get out of here with a clean sheet as well, that's another positive. I think things are going well for Celtic here this afternoon.
Yeah, how pleased will Brendan Rodgers be with the end result if Celtic managed to get through here and, largely in this second half look like the better side with 10 men?
Yeah, but he'll be exceptionally pleased, and he'll be justifiably proud of his players. As I say, but for bad finishing, they could be 4 up here, and they're playing with 10 men.
They are finding it quite easy to just find space in that Livingston half, aren't they? Because Callum McGregor just plays a sort of hopeful ball on the turn, just hooks it on the half turn into the Livingston half, and it just drops to Dyson Maeda, who has no one around him.
I get back to it and say, when you've got that one man advantage, you've got to make that count. I don't think Livingston have achieved that. I think Celtic, with the players that have got, are being, the two guys up front, they made the substitutions, worked so hard, close the space down, close players down, and then you've got the middle part. He swaps it and he makes substitutions that become impact. I just think that Celtic have showed that they're far, far better than Livingston this afternoon, even with 10 men.
We go on about the pitch and the bogey team and this, that, the other, and yet with 10 men they have been comfortable, second half. The second goal has knocked the stuffing out of Livingston. They should have had goal number 3 from Maeda and goal number 4 from O. So Brendan Rodgers has to look back on this as a day when his team came across for him and the fans.
Yeah, the latest to go into the book is Tom Parks. He's given away a foul at the corner of the box. Matt O'Reilly will look to swing this one in with his left foot. Yep, dangerous situation here. Against Celtic, not the biggest team. You would expect Livingston to be able to defend it, but as long as the ball's right, it'll be dangerous. Yeah, well, it goes straight into the arms of Shamal George. It should have been dangerous. He's actually shot, rather than put it in the box. He's obviously looked and thought, we've not got any great height here, so I might as well shoot. Is it one of those that maybe from that position you just need to sort of whip it towards the back post, hope someone gets a touch on it, and then if no one does, it's sort of bouncing on target anyway? That's the kind of general thought for that area, that you get someone running across the goalkeeper, it causes a little bit of indecision, and if they glance into the goal, great. If everybody misses it and it sneaks into the back post, then that's the bonus. So,
do you know, I'm looking at Livingston there, sorry Kenny, 81 on the clock, second half. Apart from Scott Bain's mistake, I don't think they've offered anything at all. I think Livingston will be disappointed. They've not at least created a little bit more chances. As I keep saying, you look at their back men there. You've got 3 still in Livingston's half. I don't see how you work that advantage to working for you and creating problems against Celtic. You've got to put men forward. Your centre backs have got to come out into the middle of the park with the ball. You've got to move Celtic's midfield. Celtic have been very comfortable.
Yeah, well, it's been a sterling display second half by Celtic, because they did look as if they were going to be bang up against it, but the Matt O'Reilly goal has changed everything, and they are working very hard for the manager. Yeah, well, the cross from Curtis Guthrie just into the arms of Scott Bain. Hard to spin this as a positive view, but with Celtic out of the League Cup, they've not got a game midweek. Brendan Rodgers may be happy that they have a few days off, just because it's been quite a taxing week when you look at playing with 9 men against Feyenoord, having to play this game with 10 men. Of course they'd much rather be in the Cup with a chance to win it, but having a few free days might please Brendan Rodgers. Well, the next game is Motherwell, a Motherwell side who under Stuart Kettlewell have been first class and will present Celtic with a formidable challenge. So, yeah, of course he'd rather still be in the Viaplay Cup. He'd rather not have lost one of last season's treble trophies. But, it gives him time to regroup and rest players. But the Motherwell game will be a big challenge for Celtic. And this is a challenge. They've got to see out the remaining minutes of this game and not give Livingston a goal that would set up a grandstand finish. But there's no sign of Livy scoring. I think goal. That's it though, Hugh. You've said it there. Give them a goal. That's what's probably going to need to happen, because Livingston are not asking any questions now. Since actually about that 53rd minute where I thought they actually started the second half okay, I don't think they've not threatened Scott Bain's goal at all, apart from when Scott Bain allowed them to threaten a goal. So it'll be disappointing for Dave and his team, because I think even at half time we all thought that Livingston could have really kind of mounted a challenge to get back into this game and maybe even actually go on and win it if they had got an equaliser. But that's it's been a really, really tame effort in this last half an hour. And again, I'll agree with Gordon. I think the changes have actually made Livingston worse than better. Yeah, well, this game threatening to peter out now. There are 3 big 3 o'clock kickoffs in the Premiership. Why don't we go around the grounds and get some team news from those? Let's start at the Smythe Stadium. Fraser Wishart is at St Mirren against Hearts.
Yeah, a couple of changes for St Mirren from the game against Motherwell last week. They picked up the 3 points. Boyd Munson and Mandron drop onto the bench. In come Bacchus and Olu Sanya. Usual 3-4-3 formation by Stephen Robinson. Zach Hemming in goals. Marcus Fraser, Alex Gogic and Richard Taylor at the back. Across the middle, Ryan Strain, Keanu Bacchus, Marco Hara and Scott Tanzer, and Conor McMenamin and Greg Kilty either side of Toyosi, Olu Sanya. The subs for St Mirren: Peter Erminski, James Bolton, Charles Dunn, Thierry Small, Ryan Flynn, Colin Boyd Munce, Alex Greaves, Stav Namani, and Mikael Mandron. For Hearts, also 2 changes from the victory against Aberdeen. Out go Haring onto the bench, and Oda, who's injured, and in come Beningame and Neuvenhoff. Looks like a 4-2-3-1 formation for them. Xander Clark in goals, Nathaniel Atkinson, Frankie Kent, Kai Rose and Stephen Kingsley at the back. 2 sitters in midfield, Benny Beningame and Cammy Devlin, with Kenneth Vargas, Liam Boyd and Callum Neuvenhoff behind the lone striker Lawrence Shankland. The subs for Hearts: Michael McGovern, Peter Haring, George Grant, Alan Forrest, Toby Civic, Aidan Denham, Macaulay Tate, Odeluga Olafaya and Alex Lowry. And the referee today is Nick Walsh, and the VAR is David Dickinson.
Yeah, that one has a good look about it in Paisley. Nearly an opening there for Livingston.
Yeah, poor touch, let them down there. But Celtic continue to defend vigorously. The fans, you can see, are appreciating the performance that's been put in by the Celtic players, and that they have richly deserved this win, as they have a chance for a third goal.
Yeah, Dyson Maeda driving towards the Livingston box. It will be a corner.
He's put in some shift, Dyson Maeda. He really has put in a tremendous shift. He should have scored earlier on in the game, but he's worked his socks off.
The cross coming in just over the head of everyone. They'll get a second chance at it, Celtic, from the other side, and that cross goes straight towards Shamal George. It was powerful. He's had to just beat that one away. As I say, there are 2 other games as well at 3 o'clock. Nick Montgomery with his first game in charge at Easter Road, first home game. Let's go to Roger Hanna for some team news. Hibs against St Johnstone.
Yeah, Nick Montgomery's made 3 changes from his debut at Kilmarnock last week, Andrew. Out go Lewis Stevenson, Eli Ewan and Christian Doidge, who all dropped to the bench. In come Jordan Obita, Adam Lafondra and Jair Tavares. A first start in 13 months for the 22-year-old Portuguese winger. Fell completely out of favour under Lee Johnson. Hasn't started a game since a defeat at Livingston in August 2022, but he starts ahead of Eli Ewan and is believed to be carrying a little knock. So Hibs go with David Marshall in goals. A back 4: Lewis Miller, Will Fish, Rocky Bashiri and Jordan Obita. Across the middle, Martin Boyle, Jimmy Jago, Joe Newell the skipper and Jair Tavares. And up top, Adam Lafondra and Dylan Vente. On the bench, Boruk, Hanlon and Levitt, Ewan, Stevenson and Doidge, Del Ferrier, Campbell and Rory Whittaker. Just turned 16 last month, a Scotland youth cap, on the bench for Hibs for the first time. St Johnstone makes 6 changes from the side defeated at home by Rangers last weekend. In come Brown, McClellan, Wright, McPherson, May and Sven Sprangler. International clearance received only this morning by St Johnstone for the 28-year-old Austrian midfielder. He will make his debut and will start for the Saints this afternoon. They go with Dimitar Mitov in goal. Across the back, James Brown, Sam McClellan, Andy Considine and Luke Robinson. Dan Phillips sits just in front of them. Then it's a midfield 4 of Dre Wright, Cammy McPherson, Sven Sprangler and Graham Carey. And up top it's Stevie May. On the bench, Richards, Gallagher and Kusharai, Jeffcott, Olufunwa and Smith, Turner Cook, Costello and Franzak. The referee is Kevin Clancy, and our VAR at Easter Road this afternoon, Andrew, is Matthew McDermott.
And the final game, we'll get some team news from, is it Dens Park, Dundee against Kilmarnock, Dave Galloway.
Andrew, 3 changes for Dundee. In come Jordan McGee, Scott Tiffany and Josh Mulligan. Out drop Cammy Kerr, Finlay Robertson and Ryan Howley. So it's Trevor Carson in goals. A back 4 of Jordan McGee, Joe Shaughnessy, Ricky Lamy and Owen Beck. Midfield, Josh Mulligan, Malaki Boateng, Luke McCowan and Scott Tiffany, with Amadou Bakayoko and Zach Robinson spearheading the attack. The subs: Legsdons, Kerr, Cameron, Pineda, Ashcroft, Robertson, Rudden, Mo Silla and Lewis. Kilmarnock, well, they're unchanged, no changes at all for them. Will Dennis in goals. Across the back, Lewis Mayo, Joe Wright, Robbie Dees and Stuart Finlay. The sitter in front of the back 4, Brad Lyons. Then it's Danny Armstrong, Marley Watkins, Kyle McGuinness and Matty Kennedy, with Kyle Vassell leading the line. The subs today for Killy: O'Hara, McKenzie, Watson, Sanders, Murray, Cameron, Davis, Dallas and Polworth. Your match referee today here at Dens Park, it's David Monroe. On VAR duties, Ewan Anderson.
Yeah, we'll get a bit more build up to those games the closer we get to 3 o'clock, and once it goes full time at the Tony Macaroni Arena. I think there will be a bit of time added on because there's a Livingston player down at the moment, but at 2-0 Celtic with almost 90 minutes on the clock. It's looking like a job well done for Brendan Rodgers today.
Well, you can see the smile on his face as he speaks to Matt O'Reilly. Celtic have had an outstanding afternoon given the circumstances, given that they didn't go into the match in particularly good form anyway, given the European disappointment, given that they don't like Livingston, the pitch, they find the whole place, the whole environment difficult to handle, but they got their noses in front with the penalty. And then came the Joe Hart moment. He had to be sent off. The referee was quite right to show him the red card. And you wondered then if Celtic could hold out. But players have come to the fore and they have worked hard. And there have been mistakes, notably by Bain, giving the ball away and giving Joel Newbley a real chance to score, but he puts the ball over the bar. Brendan Rodgers can only reflect on 3 points deservedly won, and one under demanding circumstances, but Celtic faced up to those demands, and that's the most important thing for the manager and a crowd who are not leaving the ground. I think they're going to show their appreciation of what Celtic have put into this match.
Yeah, as I say, 4 minutes added. We're already a minute into those 4, but the game will continue for quite a bit longer because Tom Parks is down at the moment. He's getting treatment on what looks like a shoulder injury, looks like a pretty sore one. He is up on his feet now, Tom Parks, but you know, the physio just sort of stretching it out, moving it to see if he's able to continue.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be okay. I mean, this game's really been petering out for about 15 minutes gone, and from the end. So again, for the sooner the better, to be honest with you, because it's actually getting to that stage. It's a hard watch. Celtic have done what they need to do. They're down to 10 men. They were asked a few questions towards the end of the first half and even the start of the second, but truth be told, the last half hour, 35 minutes, they're the team that have been in control. They've actually, like Hugh said, they probably could have had 3 and 4. It's job done for Celtic, and we're just looking at now if my prediction of 2-0 can hang on. That's what we're looking at now.
I did notice that, but I've got to say, I think that Livingston have had the odd flourish, but for me, Celtic's been in control of this game, and well, they'll be disappointed they've not scored more goals. They've had better opportunities. After midweek, this is a good response. Always difficult to go to because it's highlighted about the pitch and the way Livingston play. But I think Celtic.
This here's the problem right now. Joel Newbley picking the ball up, left midfield. I'm not even going to say left wing, left midfield, and then coming back deeper in all his midfielders. This is your guy that you would expect to be in the front line, causing Lager, Bielka, and Liam Scales problems. He's the one actually almost playmaking.
Chance again.
Celtic into the box. The ball. Livingston into the box. It's Joel Newbley with the shot this time. The ball dropping to him around the penalty spot. Did a Gormsey earlier.
I was desperate for him to put the ball in the back of the net.
But it still wouldn't have changed. It still wouldn't have changed the analysis, Gordon.
Yeah, Dyson Maida taking a poor touch back into the Livingston box. Louis DeLucas just trying to dink the ball towards the back post, and Alistair Johnson just decides the best course of action is to head that out for a Livingston corner.
I mean, was there a badge on? Was it Jason Holt coming in at the penalty? Was it just good defending? It's good defending for O'Reilly, and any blocks.
Good block by Matt O'Reilly there.
Sorry, Matt O'Reilly. Yep, great defending.
He's upped his game second half. We said that he wasn't at his best in the first, but I think he'll be well pleased with his second half performance.
People have talked as well about Brendan Rodgers and maybe some of the players not performing as well as they had last season. You know, the likes of maybe Callum McGregor in the opening stages of the campaign, Greg Taylor, Matt O'Reilly. You know, his performances, you know, maybe haven't been 10 out of 10 every week, but he's already got 4 goals for this campaign, which is the same number he managed in the whole of last season, the same number he managed in the whole of the season before as well. So he's certainly being utilised in a very different way by Brendan Rodgers, and he's much more of a goal threat now, isn't he?
Yeah, and watching his performances, I think it was St Johnstone at Celtic Park, he should have probably added to that tally. I think he's getting in good positions. I've said from day one about Matt O'Reilly, terrific footballer. I think he's got everything in his locker to go the next step for a midfield player. If you can add goals to your game, what a difference that is as well, and he's certainly doing that.
Dyson Maida trying again to get in behind the Livingston defence. He just doesn't stop running, does he? This time the shot with the left foot.
Goal flashes with M&D Green Pharmacy.
And what a finish that is by Daisen Maeda. He gets in behind. I said he doesn't stop running. He was a nuisance to that Livingston defence. Got the ball on his left foot at the edge of the box and just curled one into the top corner. And Celtic put a cherry on top.
Well, very much so. But incredible. I said that what a shift he'd put in. Now he's missed two very, very easy chances to score. And this is brilliant. This is nothing short of brilliant. But it's the hardest of the three chances he's had. But at 3-0, an outstanding day becomes a magnificent day for Celtic.
Today has been the type of day that really does sum up Daisen Maeda, doesn't it? Because he's done a lot of running. He's been, a key asset to this Celtic side and what they've done. There have been a couple of key moments where he's not sorted his feet out and he's maybe played the wrong pass or not scored when he should have scored, but then still manages to come up with a moment of magic at the end. But it is full time. We will go to the Tony Macaroni Arena shortly to get the full time story from Gabriel. But as I say, Daisen Maeda, a real moment of quality at the end there, Gordon.
Yeah, and do you know something? On overall play, his work rate for the team, I think he deserves that. And no better way to finish a game and a good performance from Celtic with an absolute brilliant goal. Great piece of skill. Gets a little bit of luck with defender slipping, but he's still got a lot to do. Takes it onto that left foot, gives the goalkeeper absolutely no chance. If there's one guy on the pitch deserved that this afternoon, it was him. His work rate was brilliant for the team.
You can see the smile on Brendan Rodgers' face. You could see the smile between Rodgers and his backroom staff as well, especially when that third goal went in.
It's because they'll be pleased for him, because they know the work that he puts in for the team. And yep, his end product, his quality and his passing is not as clean as the likes of Hitates or McGregor's or maybe even Kyogo's, but what he gives the Celtic team, and it's why he plays every single week, because he gives 100% every single time he plays. He can press, he can run very, very fast, which makes him a real threat, and he keeps going. He doesn't get disheartened by the two misses, because it should have been 2 goals beforehand, and then he scores the hardest one. Again, for me, you're not going to score goals like that all the time. You're not going to get 10 of them a season. The first one that he missed that led to already, you can get 10 of them a season, and that's the type of finishing that you can't afford to be missing those types of chances all the time. But he's got his reward, and that's why he stays on to the 95th minute of the game when they're down to 10 men, because he can do 2 men work up there. He covers so much ground and gives absolutely everything for his team.
A comfortable afternoon for Celtic in the end. After this break, we'll go back to the Tony Macaroni Arena and get the story from Gabriel.
The fastest goals, the expert opinions. This is Clyde One Super Scoreboard.
A successful afternoon for Celtic, 3-0 winners away to Livingston. Joe Hart sent off in the first half, but it didn't affect them too much. They went on to get a comfortable win. Let's get the story from Gabriel at the Tony Macaroni Arena.
It's all over. Celtic 3-0 victors here against Livingston. Now, it may seem a run-of-the-mill result, but do not underestimate the significance of these 3 points, with the defending champions having to play for over an hour with 10 men. Goals from Reo Hatate, Matt O'Reilly and Daisen Maeda, sparing Joe Hart's blushes after his early red card. The Tony Macaroni is always a tough place to come for any opposition, so Celtic were thankful when Hatate was brought down by Louis De Lucas in the box. Hatate grabbed the ball himself. It wasn't the greatest penalty he's ever taken, but he squeezed the ball under Shamal George. Celtic looked in control until Mo Sangare sprinted through and was clattered by Hart outside the box. Referee John Beaton correctly dismissing it. It was Celtic's 3rd red card in under an hour of football. From then on, the game looked like it would be a lot more balanced, but Celtic managed to regroup at half-time. They doubled their advantage straight after the interval. Kyogo broke with the ball out wide on the right, whipped the ball across. Daisen Maeda somehow missed from 2 yards, and Matt O'Reilly was there to tap in a massive goal. A substitute keeper, Scott Bain, nearly let the host straight back in when he was tackled in the box, but Livy spurned the chance over the bar. Later on, Daisen Maeda missed another good one-on-one chance that he should have scored, his 3rd of the match. But other than that, Celtic controlled the game despite surrendering their typical possession-based style, and Daisen Maeda finally got in on the act, cutting in, curling in with his left foot into the top-hand corner. A massive 3 points in a title race. Celtic could have easily surrendered their lead given the tough circumstances, but got over the line with relative ease in the end. Courtesy of the early kick-off, they moved 5 points clear at the top of the table and 7 points clear of Rangers. Full time here, it's Livingston 0, Celtic 3.
Yeah, Hugh, you could hear in the background just what the Celtic supporters made of it. They'll be delighted, Brendan Rodgers will be delighted, and so will the players.
Well, I mean, they've won 3-0. It could and should have been 5-0. Maeda has missed a sitter. O has missed a sitter for me. But the performance after Joe Hart went off was outstanding. Performance of bravery, resilience, invention, aggression, call it what you like. Celtic simply, for the first time this season, looked adversity in the face and stood up to it, and it's an outstanding result for Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, traditionally billed as a tough place to go, but you now look at Celtic's last 3 results away to Livingston: a 3-0 win, a 3-1 win, a 3-0 win again today. You know, they'll have a lot of confidence now.
I thought they were excellent. I really did. You know, they lose their goalkeeper. They come under a coach for about 5-10 minutes. Second half, they come out, they get the early goal. I think they dominated. They looked a team that was going to score more goals, as Hugh quite rightly said. They gave up a few chances. Livingston offered nothing. Another clean sheet as well. They'll be delighted with that. It's been a good day for Celtic. I thought the substitutions made a very good impact. I think everybody played their part. And icing on the cake, you've got to say, was Maeda's goal at the end there. Absolutely stunning.
Roger Hannah, there had been a few question marks maybe from some Celtic fans just after that midweek defeat to Feyenoord, but what can that result and performance do for Celtic?
Yeah, it was an important win because it is an awkward place to go. Brendan spoke about it at the end of the week there, you know, the plastic pitch, the way Livingston set up, it's been awkward for Celtic in the past. So to get through it, particularly down to 10 men for an hour of the game, Andrew, is exactly what Celtic needed after a difficult week in Europe. And when you hear Gabriel saying 5 points clear at the top, 7 points clear of Rangers, I think Celtic fans this afternoon will be a bit more content than they were post Rotterdam.
Fraser Wisher, we look at this result and we're talking about the gap at the top of the table. Yes, it is very early on in the season, but you know, the beauty of the scheduling is that sometimes teams just get that chance to go ahead, whether it's at a big psychological advantage, but that's something that will, you know, fans will look at quite fondly.
Yeah, I think sometimes we over egg a wee bit of the psychological advantage and the fact that the pressure's back onto Rangers. You know, I think Rangers would have expected Celtic to go to Livingston and win. Livingston done so well the last couple of years, it's not quite the same team as they've been, so I think I expected Celtic to win. But yeah, of course Rangers now need to build on that Real Betis victory. I think it was a big win for Celtic because they've not quite got to their high standards over the last couple of years. At the beginning of this season, I felt the game in midweek was a chance missed. You know, they were in the game pretty much until the first red card, and you know, Feyenoord weren't at their best either. There's something there for Celtic, so it's another one of these kind of what it could have been. So if they drop points today, then of course Celtic fans would not have been happy, but a comprehensive victory, comfortable, played well. Brendan Rodgers will enjoy his weekend for a change.
Yeah, Kenny, we've just seen it pop up on the screen there that Greg Taylor was awarded man of the match. He had a fantastic season last season, was consistently one of Celtic's best players. Has maybe struggled a wee bit in the early stages of this campaign, but that type of performance he'll really be looking to kick on from now.
I thought he had a decent game today. First half for me, I thought it was very good. He was instrumental in the chances that Celtic created and the penalty. Second half again, I thought it was maybe quite quiet actually in the second half. But again, he's been great since Ange came in at Celtic, and he's maintained a really high level of form, because it's always a position as well that come a transfer window, it's maybe an area where Celtic fans or guys in the media like us are saying maybe that's an area you could strengthen. But what he keeps doing is he keeps rising to the occasion. He's kept his jersey. They signed Bernabei last summer for a good bit of money, but he's kept him at bay. So he's performing at a really, really high level, as, to be honest, probably most of the Celtic players have done over the last couple of years. And like the rest of them, levels have maybe dropped a little bit at the start of this season, but everybody at Celtic believes that they will click into gear, that is maybe just going to take a little bit of time to adjust to to the new manager and the way that he wants to play. But yeah, we're just looking at a couple of these passes there. I mean, they were outstanding passes for Greg Taylor, really good distribution.
That's what you saw so much from him last season, though. So many of those passes, whether it was in between, the opposition's right centre back and right back, just being able to play someone like Maida in and just cutting open defences.
And you know what? And he also is a real threat. Again, particularly last season, when he's making those wee into-out runs, when he finds himself in the inside pockets, he's just performed at a really, really good level, and it's good to see, because again, a lot of people had kind of written off, and that says, but that left side of Celtic's defence with Starfelt and Taylor, it was always a topic of conversation. Oh, maybe you could get at that, but it's one thing for sure, Starfelt and Taylor, they performed brilliant over that Ange kind of spell. He winning the 5 trophies out of 6, and he was a big part of it. So he stepped up today, had a good performance. I say probably more so in the first half. A lot of the good clips and the highlights we see more are from the first half. So but it was a strong performance, and listen, maybe deserves the man of the match. Maybe
an early season characteristic of Celtic: go to Pittodrie, score 3 goals and win. Go to Ibrox, win 1-0. Livingston, the allegedly difficult ground for Celtic to play on, with 10 men, win 3-0. Brendan Rodgers is getting results, big results, away from home. They're arguably better away from home than they are at Celtic Park.
Yeah, and Gordon, you can pick out individuals from that performance, but when a team go down to 10 men, how much of it is about the collective effort and then the game plan that Brendan Rodgers puts on the players as well?
Yeah, most managers, when they go down to 10 men, they'll go with the 2 banks of 4 and stick one up top and hope the lad just runs about and closes space down. Celtic keep the 4, they keep the 3. And what they have is they're very lucky. They've got 2 guys with the work rate of Kyogo and Maida, and they 2 just work their socks off and make it very difficult. For me today, if you're watching that game, you don't see that Livingston had that 1-man advantage, because Celtic, I thought, were brilliantly organised, especially second half. They dominated most of the game, and when they get the ball, they very seldom give away cheap passes. They keep the ball because they've got quality players and they can cut you open. That's what happened today.
Well, plenty more reaction to come from that game, but there are 3 big 3 o'clock kickoffs as well. Hibs against St Johnstone, Dundee against Kilmarnock, and St Mirren against Hearts. We'll go back around the grounds next.
The Clyde One Super Scoreboard Podcast with lookers.co.uk. With over 140 dealerships across the UK, it's the place to find new and used cars and vans.